Ladies and gentlemen, may I have your attention please? The forum will be starting at 3 p.m. Korea time. The forum is holding a contact-free conference due to coronavirus. And all participants can join in online through Zoom and YouTube. The entrance code and password for Zoom online conference were sent by registered phone number to whom has completed an advanced registration on official website. Please take a time to check a text message and attend the Zoom online conference room if you are willing to participate in live meeting. Once connected to the Zoom conference room, please turn camera on and put microphone on mute to participate in online forum. And also Korean and English simultaneous interpretation are available under language settings. Please listen in languages you're comfortable with. Moreover, the forum is showing live YouTube. Please follow YouTube channel Seoul for Korean and visit Seoul TV for English to participate in live show. We received some questions from pre-registered participants through official website. And also questions will be taken only to participants on Zoom conference room. So if you have additional questions, please send us through chat rooms via Zoom conference rooms. It will deliver to a speaker and Q&A will be proceeded afterward. Thank you.
Any excellent clinic for plastic surgery aesthetics? Any health checkup center offering more precise diagnoses? Any Oriental medical clinic that is reliable enough? Well, should I go abroad for that? The destination is Korea. Let's go to Seoul, the destination for global medical tourism. Renewed beauty, a healthy body, aesthetic care for me. Seoul is not only a destination for healthcare and tourism. Walk along the shopping streets in Seoul in an upbeat mood. Make unforgettable memories while walking along the scenic fortress walls with a healthier body. Or what about enjoying the Korea wave with K-movie or K-culture? Come to Seoul, a city of global medical tourism.
그렇게 모두의 여행은 닫혀 있었다.
이제 우리가 가까워질 시간.
어서 와요. 서울에 온 걸 환영해요. 봤어요? 먼저 서울 스타일로 변신. 어때요?
같이 걸을까요? 서울의 이야기를 조용히 들어봐요.
짠! 이번엔 짜릿한 서울을 즐길 시간.
배고프겠다. 서울 맛집으로 내가 안내할게요.
많이 기다렸죠? 대신 더 특별한 서울을 보여줄게요.
같이 보고 싶다. 우와. 함께 할 거죠? 약속.
여행이 시작되면 첫 번째 목적지는 서울이 되길 바래.
서울에서 만나요. See you in Seoul. I saw you.
2020 Seoul Medical Tourism International Forum for the second time. Seoul medical tourism market continues to grow. Wellness market towards comprehensive health, as well as physical, mental, and social health. In the COVID-19 period, we discussed the future of the medical and wellness tourism market. Keynote speaker, Keith Pollard. Session 1, COVID-19 and medical wellness tourism market. Ki Nam Jin. Klaus Schumacher. Laura McLucky. Laszlo Putzko. Jit Dindsa. Discussion, keynote speaker, session 1 speaker, and Jit Dindsa. Session 2, preparation for post-COVID-19 medical wellness tourism market. Sharin Asley. Ho Xiongtian. Sarina Okamura. Dong Byun. Discussion. Session 2 speaker Laura McLucky and Dong Byun. 2020 Seoul Medical Tourism International Forum. It's starting now.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Of course, good morning and good evening, depending on where you are. Welcome to the 2020 Seoul Medical Tourism International Forum. My name is Kyungmi Kim, and your MC for today. And it's my great pleasure to be with you in this very important meeting from all over the world. 2020 Seoul Medical Tourism International Travel Mart for medical tourism has started last week, and it will be with us until 19th November. So have you ever visited our website, and did you find any good information? Have you enjoyed our program so far? I hope you enjoyed. As you just watched the main video, our forum is hosted by Seoul and organized by Seoul Tourism Organization, and it will be held for 3 hours today under the theme of COVID-19 and medical wellness tourism market with keynotes and session 1 and 2, which will provide a new insight into rapidly changing environment under the impact of COVID-19. And this year, our forum is being held online to prevent the spread of COVID-19 and for your safety. We are sorry that we're not able to welcome all the participants on site. However, YouTube and video conference platform Zoom are prepared for you to be with us online. So please stay with us until the end. And for those of you who completed the pre-registration, please check the entrance code and password for Zoom online conference, which was sent to your mobile. So after you enter the conference room, please turn camera on and put microphone on mute. And moreover, the forum is showing live YouTube, so please follow YouTube channel Seoul for Korean and Visit TV for English to participate in live show. And during the session, if you have a question, please send them to chat rooms of Zoom conference room, and we'll be talking about your questions and the panel discussions with our moderator and speakers. So I look forward to your active participation. And the opening video showed that in the forum, there will be 10 excellent speakers and experts in and out of Korea in the field of medical tourism. So our keynote will be delivered by Kees Pollard, Editor-in-Chief, International Medical Travel Journal from UK. I think he's already here with us. And researcher Klaus Schmorel from Germany, Laszlo Putzko, CEO, and co-founder, Health Tourism Worldwide from Hungary. Thank you. I can see him. Will be joining us through internet in the session 1. I believe they already logged in here. Thank you very much. And also speakers in the session 2 will be joining us later on. So I'll introduce them after session 1 finished. And also speakers in Korea are here with me in the studio. So first of all, let's begin welcoming Ki Nam-jin, Professor, Department of Health Administration, Yonsei University, Korea, who designed the forum program and support the speakers casting and as a moderator of the forum. So Professor, thank you very much for joining us here. Thank you. Ki Nam-jin, actually, professor are making a huge effort for medical tourism in Korea and healthcare development. Once again, thank you very much. And also we have foreign speakers residing in Korea. Thank you. Laura McLarkey, CEO Wellme Wellness Solution from all the way from Busan. Thank you very much for coming. Thank you. And we have with us next Nit Dinsa, thank you, CEO and founder, My Soul Secret US. Thank you. And we are now in the Seoul On video conference call studio in Seoul in real time, which prepare for contact-free conferences by Seoul Metropolitan Government. And our studio on site completed disinfection and this morning and is complying with the quarantine guideline strictly. And we kindly ask for your kind understanding that all speakers and myself don't wear masks, don't wear masks for a better forum. So I ask for your understanding. Okay, all right, then let me officially begin 2020 Seoul Medical Tourism International Forum. So first, there will be a welcoming remarks by the President and CEO Lee Jae-sung of Seoul Tourism Organization. But unfortunately, he was not able to attend the forum in person, so he filmed pre-recorded video for you. So for now, let's watch his greetings.
안녕하십니까. 서울관광재단 대표이사 이재성입니다. 서울의료관광 국제포럼에 많은 관심 가져주시고 참석해 주신 국내의 참가자 여러분 반갑습니다. 그리고 진심으로 환영합니다.
Thank you very much for joining us from home and abroad. I'm glad to see all of you. And thank you for showing interest and attending the Seoul International Medical Tourism Forum. It is a great honor to host the Seoul International Medical Tourism Forum 2020 in Seoul, and joined by world-class experts in the medical and wellness field at a time when the world is suffering from COVID-19. The Republic of Korea has proven the excellence of its medical system by taking outstanding preventive measures amid the unprecedented global pandemic and is drawing attention as an exemplary case around the world. Last year, about 490,000 medical tourists visited Korea, a 46% increase year-on-year. About 65% of them, or 320,000 people, chose to visit Seoul. We believe that medical and wellness tourism will emerge as a new trend in the new normal era after COVID-19. And today we will be looking into the impact of COVID-19 on the global medical and wellness tourism market and actively discuss medical and wellness tourism in the post-COVID-19 era, which I believe is quite timely. This forum has gathered together medical tourism experts, industry practitioners, and citizens from home and abroad. We hope to find good alternatives to prepare for the post-COVID-19 era. Thank you very much.
For your kind remarks. Thank you very much. Well, actually, the Seoul Metropolitan Government and Seoul Tourism Organization is making a lot of effort for the medical tourism market, which is struggling due to the influence of Corona. Thank you very much for your support. And ladies and gentlemen, it's time for us to have a keynote speech. Well, Kees Pollard, Editor-in-Chief, International Medical Travel Journal, UK, will have a keynote speech about impact of COVID-19 on the global medical travel market. Well, Kees Pollard is participating from UK. He's now online. Hi.
Good morning, or good afternoon, as it is in Seoul, I believe.
Wow, it's a 7 a.m. early in the morning. Thank you very much for joining us here.
It's 6 a.m. here, actually.
Oh,
it's quite early. So
earlier.
This is the earliest I've ever had to get out of bed for a medical tourism conference. So that's a first for Seoul this year.
Okay, just fresh start. So please start your presentation. Thank you in advance.
Certainly. Thank you. Good morning and good afternoon, everyone. My name's Keith Pollard. I work for a company called Lang Buisson in the UK, and I'm the
I think we have a little
editor-in-chief for a journal called International.
going on.
Are we okay?
Yeah, well, we have a little pause there. So can you check your volume and sound?
Yeah, I'm okay at the moment. So I will keep going. I assume you can hear me okay?
Yeah, fine.
Okay. So let me talk about what I do in my day job. So I'm a healthcare specialist working for a company called Lang Buisson. My particular interest is medical travel as publisher and editor of the International Medical Travel Journal, but also research consultancy into the medical travel market, and a lot of reports and information about that sector, and obviously things like our annual IMTJ Medical Travel Summit. So that's the day job. What do I do at the weekend? Well, this is what I used to do at the weekend and how the world has changed. So, you know, at a weekend, my son races cars. So in the normal world, I'd be off to watch him race cars at the weekend. I run a very big youth football club with about 1,200 kids playing football. On a weekend, I'd normally be going off to watch them play. But of course, the world has changed and they don't play football anymore at weekends. And if I wasn't there, I'd be going to see a big game in the Premiership. And of course, my club and my favourite player is this guy, Heung-min Son. If you ever meet him, if he ever comes to Seoul, he is the best ambassador you have ever had for your country. He's done a magnificent job of putting Korea on the back pages, the sports pages of every newspaper in the UK and across Europe. So remember what an ambassador this young man is for your country. What I'm going to do this morning is to share with you my thoughts on what COVID-19 has done to the medical travel market. To look briefly where we are now, how it's impacted healthcare provision, patient flow, patient perception, the changes that it's driving in patient communication, and so just some initial thoughts on the way forward and where Korea might sit in this new kind of post-COVID world. So where are we now? Well, it's very simple. This is a global pandemic. This has affected more people around the world than either of the world wars that have taken place. So no country has escaped this. Some countries have managed it better than others. You know, this chart here just shows the impact. The darker the color, the more deaths there have been per million population. And some countries have obviously suffered much more than others. And in Europe, obviously, we're going through a particularly hard time at the moment. If you go back to March, at the end of what's been described as the first wave of this pandemic, the travel and tourism business was fairly hopeful about when borders would open, when people would start to get on planes and fly. And this is what they're kind of three scenarios they painted back in March. Of course, all these predictions have been completely wrong, and even their scenario 3 it's worse than that. There has yet to be any recovery in kind of general travel and tourism, and at the moment there is little light at the end of the tunnel. I thought I'd give you an idea of what it's like in the UK at the moment. And the UK is fairly typical of what's happening across Europe at the moment. Excuse me. So across Europe, every country across Europe is being hit very hard in a second wave of COVID. This is the UK as of last week. So we're getting close to having 50,000 deaths attributed to COVID. Now, you have to be quite careful with this data. These are deaths where the patient, the person dying, has had a COVID positive death within the previous 28 days. So it may not be strictly speaking COVID related deaths, but they've had COVID and that potentially has contributed to death. So it's a significant number of cases, a significant number of daily deaths. We're running infection rates around 25,000 a day, positive tests at the moment. And this is the biggest concern. If you talk to our hospitals in London and around the country, and particularly in the northwest at the moment, their intensive care units are filling up. And although we're becoming better at treating COVID-19, people are continuing to die. And this is the kind of 7-day graph of comparing what it was like back at the peak in May and where we are at the moment. And we're heading in the same direction. There's a bit of evidence that we may be flattening that curve a bit, but ultimately what that's resulted in is lockdown. And like many countries across Europe, Scandinavia, Netherlands, Belgium, France, Italy, Spain, all these countries are in some form of lockdown at the moment. What does it mean for us in the UK? We have a lockdown where I'm at home this morning. I'm allowed to go out of my house to the shop. Only the supermarkets are open. There are no other retail stores open. I'm allowed to go out of the house to exercise, and our schools are open, but that's it. Our offices are closed. We're all encouraged to work from home. And this is for a set period of 1 month. And if the numbers don't turn around, then we may end up extending that. But this is a similar story across Europe at the moment. So how's the travel and tourism business reacted to COVID-19, and what is the industry in travel and tourism doing to kind of deal with this? And I thought I'd share some examples of what's going on, some lessons from globally and parts of the world. In terms of travel, there is a whole bunch of certifications and standards that have been developed to try and convince people that it is safe to travel and that destinations, countries, regions are safe places to go. And safety is a real key theme of what you need to focus on post-COVID. So here we have the Safe Travel stamp from the World Travel and Tourism Council, a series of protocols, a kind of simple certification that a destination can gain, and a large number of destinations around the world have applied this. We then have regional programs. So this Healthier, Safer Tourism program is one that's been developed within the Caribbean islands, because obviously their economy is severely threatened by this. Let me just go back. And on the right here, we have a country initiative, and this is the Healthy Tourism certification that Turkey is using to say that its hotels, its accommodation providers are healthy places to stay. So we have a number of travel and tourism certifications that have appeared. It's not just in terms of hotels and accommodation. There is now an airport accreditation scheme, which is saying this airport is a safe place to travel through. And we have an interesting initiative by the World Economic Forum. And this is to try and overcome the problem of, if you're traveling from one country to another, how do you prove that you are COVID safe, that you don't have an infection currently? And what they're trying to develop is an app which kind of embraces the various tests, which will become an international standard called Common Pass, which effectively is providing evidence of your COVID status. The other thing, of course, is that we have hospital certifications appearing from TMOS, the German-based certification company, and from a US provider, that are effectively enabling a hospital or clinic to say, we follow COVID-safe protocols and we are COVID-safe. Then, again, this is worth thinking of for Seoul or for Korea. Some of the major tourism, medical tourism destinations, and this is Dubai Health Authority, who have introduced a program of non-COVID hospitals, of saying, right, there are some hospitals in Dubai that are completely COVID safe, and they will remain non-COVID hospitals, and they will not admit any patients who have a COVID infection, which enables them to continue the treatment of others. What about insurance? So the issue is, if you're traveling, what happens if you get COVID-19 while you're traveling? Well, here's an initiative that's been introduced recently in Singapore, and this is a low-cost travel insurance product which covers people visiting Singapore for any risk of catching COVID-19 and the potential costs of treatment. Again, out of Dubai, this is Emirates Airline, and what they're doing to encourage the opening of Dubai as a destination is anyone who books a flight with Emirates Airline receives a free travel insurance program product, which covers them for the complications of COVID-19. So they're saying to people who want to travel, look, we will give you the insurance that will cover the cost and any issues that may arise. So how's COVID affecting health provision in hospitals and clinics across the globe? Well, what it's really done, if we look at the cost of providing COVID-safe environments in hospitals, the added cost of PPE, personal protective equipment, and so on. It's adding to the time that it takes to treat patients and undertake operations, and obviously massively increasing the cost in some cases. That ultimately, and we've seen this across the UK, that there is less theatre time to treat patients in general. So we estimate in the UK that the amount of operating theatre time within our operating theatres across the public and the private sector is 20% less than it was pre-COVID, because of the time it's taking to set up for operations and then clean down and sterilise again after operations. And ultimately, fewer beds, because beds are being taken up and occupied with patients with this disease, and other patients not being able to get into those beds. What does that all mean? It results very simply in pent-up demand, and this is our UK data. So we have a public health service, we have a national health service, and there are stipulated waiting times that the government says normally you should not wait more than 18 weeks for any operation. So that's the maximum waiting time. Well, here's the data for July 2019, July 20. The number of patients exceeding that statutory limit has increased fivefold. The number of patients waiting more than a year for a scheduled operation has gone up 80-fold. I was watching a BBC documentary last night about a London hospital, a major teaching hospital, where, you know, they've, during the period of the COVID peak, they were unable to undertake any regular operations because they were just blocked out with COVID patients. So, and this is not only happening in the UK, this is happening in many countries around the world, that you have this massive pent-up demand for treatment. And certainly what we're seeing in the UK is that, particularly where the public sector can't cope, is we're seeing a growth in private health insurance and in people paying out of their own pockets, out of their savings, to have operations that they need. How's it affecting patient flow? I'm just going to share some data. We did a survey of 250 people around the world involved in this business back in March, April, and just their view of what the impact, they thought the impact of COVID-19 was going to be. We obviously asked them, what's it done to your patient numbers? And the impact on medical travel, the flow of international patients has been massive, and this is everywhere, that travel stopped, international patient just didn't arrive. So, you know, generally their business is down 50, 60, 70, 80, 100%, complete virtual disappearance of their international patient business. We asked these people, well, how long do you think it's going to take till we get back to normal? So we asked this question back in March, and they're saying, well, it's going to take 6 to 12 months to recover. Well, hang on, we've got to the 6-month point and we're still nowhere near recovery. So add another 6 to 12 months for now, and the outlook is very, very long term. We asked them what they were doing about staffing, and the general view is most international patient departments or clinics that are focused on international business are cutting staff. So they're either laying them off, they're putting them on a furlough, or they're reducing working hours. And the problem now for many of those hospitals and clinics is deciding, well, what do we do? Do we keep them on for another 6 months, paying them without actually any real work to do, or do we lay them off permanently? How's it changing patient perception? What people felt about this was that, in effect, it was going to increase the time that patients were going to take to make a decision about medical travel. So patient concerns about safety were going to extend their decision-making time. So it's going to take longer to convert an inquiry into a patient. Converting interest into an inquiry, into a booking, is going to be much harder. We also asked about distance. Were patients going to be prepared to travel as far? And it's clear that the view is patients just won't travel as far. They may drive across a border rather than fly any significant distance. So patients are not going to travel as far. Cultural match is going to become even more important than it was before. And that's all about this trust and safety thing. Do I feel safe in this environment? And I think it really does prompt you, and it should prompt you to really think about your markets and where your business will come from in the coming months, or certainly once we've got back to some kind of normality. What about influence on patient choice of medical package? Well, really, we're through 3 things here. They're really going to look at established brands, people they can trust, that word again, destinations that have beaten COVID-19, and destinations that are perceived as COVID safe. So who's the winner? So in this kind of nightmare world that we live in at the moment, are there any countries that are actually potentially going to do better than this? And I have to say, the winner in this is, or certainly one of the winners out of others' pain, is probably Korea. And I think you need to think about why you sell Korea and how you would promote and sell Korean healthcare post-COVID. And really think about possibly a new message. This is what the world thinks of Korea over the last few months. You could not want for a better PR story. Look at some of these headlines. Every word about Korea, South Korea, is about success. The secret behind South Korea's COVID success, leveraging South Korea's COVID-19 success. And this is across Europe, the USA, Asia. Korea has got more coverage in the international and national press in the last 6 months than I think it ever has done before. And these are all very positive, good news stories. How's it changing patient communications? Just a few comments to finish on that. Unquestionably, telehealth is here to stay. some simple data here, but we know how telehealth and telemedicine that was once a nice to have is now a must have. And patients have become used very quickly to interacting. I interact with my local GP using a computer screen. So this is now a must have. And that's got a really important message for South Korea, because what does your country do better than anywhere else in the world? And it's all this stuff. You know, one of the leaders in technology worldwide, in terms of what you can do both in the general technology area, but also in telehealth and telemedicine. And this is an area that you have a real opportunity to maximize. So for South Korea in medical travel, yes, this COVID-19 bug is a threat, but probably more than any other country in the world, this is an opportunity. So just to conclude, I believe South Korea has enhanced massively its global reputation as a result of COVID-19. You know, I know that you're still fighting it like many other destinations and many countries, but it is at the moment the standout country in terms of managing this and demonstrating the strength of your healthcare system. The advantage you have in technology, given what's happening in telehealth and telemedicine, is a real opportunity for you to build stronger competitive advantage. So my message is there's a lot of pent-up demand up there across many countries for healthcare. You are ideally positioned to take advantage of that. So Seoul, South Korea, exploit the opportunity. Thank you for your time this morning. Thank you, Keenan, for the invitation. Please take a look at imtj.com. We publish regular COVID-19 industry updates. It's about all we write at the current moment. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Editor-in-Chief Kees Polad, for sharing your insightful knowledge and information. I really enjoyed your presentation. Thank you very much once again. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, now let's move on to session 1, and we'll listen to 4 presentations and followed by panel discussions led by moderator. So we have speakers online and on site. So let me briefly introduce our speakers in the session 1. First, Mr. Ki Nam-jin, Professor Yonsei University, Korea, will have the first presentation. Also, he is here as a moderator in the session 1 and 2. Thank you very much. Okay. And then let me briefly talk about our speakers as well too. Okay. And also our speakers, Klaus Schumari from Germany. Hi. Hello, can you hear me? Are you here? There? Are you there with me? Klaus Schumari from Germany.
Yes, I am.
Yeah, clearly. Thank you. And also we have speaker Laszlo Pudzko from Hungary. Hello?
Yes, hello, good afternoon.
Good, clear. I look forward to your presentation later. And also we have speaker Laura Menglarki in the studio with us. Thank you, perfect. And also Jit Dendusa came here as a panelist. Thank you very much. Okay, we'll have a panel discussion with, Kees Polad in the panel discussion as well. So I look forward to your insights as well. And also, if you have any question or comments, please don't hesitate to send us through chat rooms on Zoom, and we will have a question and answer time on real-time basis in the panel discussion. So our listeners and viewers, hello? If you hear me, please wave your hands. Hello, our viewers. Thank you. Yeah, you're there. So if you have any question or comments, please leave your comments on our, chat rooms on Zoom. Okay? Thank you very much. I think we're ready. So first of all, Professor Jin-Gina will now give us a presentation on Organized tourism market during COVID-19. So Professor, the floor is now yours.
Thank you. This is Professor Kim Nam-jin from Yonsei University. It is a great honor for me to have this great opportunity to make a speech. Today, I'd like to talk about COVID-19 pandemic and medical tourism in Seoul. I'd like to deal with these three topics: medical tourism trends in Seoul for last 10 years. And the second topic is COVID-19 challenges for medical tourism market. The third topic would be what action needs to be taken. Okay, first let me talk about the medical tourism trend in Seoul from year 2009 to 2019. As you can see from this chart, in year 2009, we had around 37,000 medical tourists in Seoul. This number has increased to over 320,000 last year. So for last 10 years, there was a steep increase in the number of medical tourists in Seoul. This table shows the ranking of top 5 destinations for last 10 years. As you can see from this table, Seoul has taken the first position for last 10 years. The percentage of medical tourists who visited Seoul was around 60%. This table shows the ranking of nationality of medical tourists in Seoul. US has ranked number 1 for 3 years, since year 2009. However, in year 2012, China became number 1. And US has taken the second position, and it lasted for many years. However, in year 2018, Japan has ranked 2nd. So we have seen these changes for last 10 years. This table shows the mostly preferred services in Seoul. As you can see from this table, the popular services were cosmetic surgery, dermatology, internal medicine, health checkup, and oriental medicine. Now, let me talk about the COVID-19 challenges for medical tourism market. This table shows the COVID-19 situations of major target countries. This table shows top 8 countries. The China ranked number 1, followed by Japan, US, Russia, Mongolia, Kazakhstan, Thailand, and Canada. Why don't you look at the yellow-colored rows in this table? From here, Mongolia and Thailand, these 2 countries showed relatively lower number of COVID-19 cases. They also showed relatively lower COVID-19 related deaths. These days, many experts are talking about making travel bubble. From my opinion, if we open our border to other countries, probably Mongolia, Thailand, and Vietnam may be first target countries for us. We may try to make a travel bubble with these countries. Maybe the next would be China and Japan, and then probably Russia and US might be the last. This table shows the preferred services by the nationality. Why don't we look at these 3 countries, Mongolia, Vietnam, Thailand? These countries were quite effective in controlling the COVID-19. So as I mentioned, if we open the border, I think we may first try to open the border with these countries. So why don't we look at the preferred services by the patient from these 3 countries? The patient from Thailand, they prefer cosmetic surgery, dermatology. How about the Vietnam patients? They also prefer health checkup, internal medicine. So, this table shows the market share of countries of first travel bubble. If we make the first travel bubble with Thailand, Vietnam, and Mongolia, I think in the case of cosmetic surgery market, we'll gain 13% of last year's volume if we open the border to these three countries. In the case of dermatology, we may gain 3% of last year's volume. In the case of internal medicine, maybe 8% around. Health checkup, probably around 7%. In the case of OBGYN, maybe around 9%. So if we first try the travel bubble, we may see the rebound in these areas. So we need to make a plan for gradual lockdown easing. Now, this is the most important topic I want to address today. What action needs to be taken? Some hospitals, some local governments, they don't do anything right now because the patients are not coming. But I think this is the most critical moment for us. We need to prepare for the post-COVID medical tourism market. First, let me talk about the critical reviews of past achievement. I think this is the time for evaluation and reflection. We have been overwhelmed by quantitative performance indicators. We have pursued the number of medical tourists. Whenever we have a meeting, we always talk about how many patients we had, how much we earned. We always talk about number of medical tourists or annual earnings. So we have pursued relentlessly for increasing the number of medical tourists since this was the gold standard for evaluating the achievement of a government-driven project. So because we pursued the quantitative aspect, sometimes we missed the qualitative aspect of our performance. So I think this is a very important time for critical reviews. We need to look at our success factors. We also look at the mistakes. We need to critically review ourselves. I think this is a valuable moment to reflect on what might be good going forward. The next one is service innovation. We should do our best to improve our service, to develop new services. First, we need to develop protocols for the new normal. We need to improve the organizational preparedness. We need to improve the capability to screen patients for COVID-19 symptoms. We need to make a guideline of a safe experience for medical tourists. We may need to make a sophisticated plan of how to provide seamless and safe services for the medical tourist. We also need to adopt touchless interface technology. Yes, South Korea is quite well ahead in IT technology. So this is the time for us to use our advanced IT technology to improve the customer's experience. We need to develop digital service delivery. As Keith mentioned, telemedicine will become a very, very important tool for any providers. Look at these examples. Bomnungrad Hospital, Raffles Hospital, Apollo hospitals. In other countries, they've already made the online platform to provide informations to their customers. But unfortunately, in South Korea, most of the hospitals, they fail to prepare for these services. So we need to think more about how to improve our digital service. We need to try to improve the virtual experience of our customers. We need to develop digital value-added services like advice and education. We need to try to provide useful information on the clinical management of COVID-19. The first topic is developing the infrastructure for product development. We need to think about product portfolio. Our main concern was just medical services, but this is the time for us to think about wellness services, how to supplement the medical services with wellness services. By combining these three, we should try to create unique and attractive products. This table shows an example. Okay, we've already developed medical services, but we also need to develop wellness services, skincare, meditation, spa, massage, healing food, nature, and forest. We have a lot of resources, services, but we fail to identify these services as a so-called wellness services. So we should identify these services and then try to make a hybrid product, which would be attractive for the foreign customers. We also should think about these new products in the era of COVID-19. Immunity, strengthening immunity becomes a big issue. Boosting immunity, stress management, COVID-19 recovery program might be a good product. The final one is branding and marketing. As Keith mentioned, this is a very important moment for us to develop our destination brand. Actually, we failed to develop our destination brand so far. So this is the time for us to develop destination brand. The national brand has improved thanks to our effective controlling of COVID-19. So by using our improved national brand, we should try to strengthen our reputation of South Korea as a medical wellness tourism destination. We need to use diverse channels because we cannot meet in person these days. So we should actively search for the other options, online channels. We should try to develop messages. We should try to share our information. We should send a strong message. We care for them. We should develop practical tips for COVID-19 prevention for helping the foreign patients. We also should develop protocols and regulations to fight against COVID-19. We also should identify best practices to assure our future customers. We should try to share our experiences with the patients in other countries. We should send a strong message that we care for them. We should try to stay connected with them. Thank you for listening.
Thank you, Professor, for your very insightful presentation. What action need to be taken? We should think about it. Thank you very much once again. So let's move on to the next speaker. Next second presentation will be given from Germany through online. So Klaus Shimura, hi there.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good afternoon, rather.
Okay, here, good afternoon. So what time is there? 7:30 maybe?
It's 7, exactly, just about 8.
Okay, thank you very much for joining us in early morning. So yeah, please start your presentation.
Well, thank you very much for the opportunity to present to you today, especially to Professor Kinam. It's a pleasure, and I very much enjoy presentations in South Korea in general, because I always find it very enlightening and very instructive to compare both Germany and South Korea, as they are very similar in terms of target audience, although very different in terms of the geographic area that they service. But I always find a lot of similarities between the two, and I'm sure you will see them as well. This is what I have planned for you today. I'd like to focus on the impact of COVID-19 on the medical tourism to Germany, and especially on the path forward. But to do that, I believe it is necessary to just share some quick information about medical travel to Germany in general with you, to give you some background and to better assess what's actually happening here. So I'd like to share just 4 characteristics really quick for you to learn a bit more about medical travel to Germany. In Germany, we have both public and private providers, and all of these are very deeply rooted in our domestic healthcare system, which is a key feature, which in a way helps and at the same time restricts medical tourism, as you will see. It's also important to know that international patients are not crucial for providers in Germany or in the grand scheme of things. They're very marginal for the single provider, although total numbers across all hospitals are fairly high. There is a bit of a focus on complex inpatient treatments in terms of international inbound patients, but you should also know that up to 80% of total treatments are actually outpatient treatments. And we don't know very much about that, or at least about the treatments that occur beyond the hospitals. So that's quite different compared to the excellent data that Professor Kinam has to share about South Korea. You should also know that the treatments that are provided by providers in Germany or by hospitals, they're very substantially. That is, we have, for example, university hospitals that focus on very complex treatments, particularly in the fields of oncology, neurology. But there are also private hospitals, and their specializations range across all the different treatment types. Typically, they don't provide everything. They focus on a few particular treatment groups. But across all these different private hospitals, a lot of different treatments are provided. And a final feature you should know as a backdrop to the information I'm going to share about the impact of COVID-19 is that there is very little to no government support of medical travel in Germany. It's very limited. That's one of the reasons why international patients are not the main focus of most providers. Another reason is that our providers are actually restricted by our public fee schedules. That is, you cannot charge international patients more than a public or private patient in Germany, which is very restrictive for a number of reasons. For example, you cannot pass on interpreter fees very easily and other costs that you incur. So that's just for a quick backdrop of inbound medical tourism to Germany, which will be important as we look at the impact of COVID-19. Here's a quick overview of the treatment focus of international patients in Germany. So as you can see, all the way up there are oncological treatments, ICT2 treatments. That's by far the largest type of treatment that's being provided, and it's also the most rapidly growing group. But then as you look across other treatment types, the circulatory system, nervous system, skeletal system, and connective tissue, they're all there, essentially, with oncological treatments being on the top. And finally, to know a bit about the regional focus, I said it's very similar in terms of treatments that South Korea provides, but in terms of the regional focus, it's of course different. You see a bit of a regional focus in Europe. So Germany services a lot of patients from neighboring countries. Of course, Russia is very far up there. Next in line are the Middle East as a particularly important source region, and Central Asia. so CIS countries. Let's turn our attention to the actual impact of COVID-19 in terms of treatments. What we can see is that there has been an overall increase in demand an overall decrease in demand for treatments in Germany, but it varies substantially by regions. And as different providers provide different treatments and service different regions, they haven't all seen that effect of an overall decrease. In fact, there are some providers that report that they haven't seen a decrease in demand at all. A second important thing to point out, and that this runs a bit counter to what Keith said earlier, the conversion rates are up tremendously. That is, any lead essentially leads to an international patient at the moment. There could be different reasons for that. It could be that either Germany is perceived as sort of a safe island in Europe, or it's the particular treatment types that Germany provides that are deemed to be essential oncological treatments, or it could simply be that supply elsewhere is down, which is a main suspicion, which leads to very high conversion rates at the moment. That being said, the actual treatment numbers, so not what's being demanded, but what's actually being delivered by hospitals, is down by up to 90%. Again, varying a lot on the different treatment type that's being provided. What we see is that a lot of patients have canceled their short stay outpatient treatments, or had to cancel them due to travel restrictions. But there are some providers that report essentially no change in the treatments delivered or the demand observed. And these are providers that deliver largely oncological treatments to international patients. We have also seen that some of the patients that were stuck in Germany and couldn't travel back home engaged in additional treatments. So these were particularly checkups for the most part. And another interesting impact of COVID-19 on treatments is the COVID-19 patients themselves. There are anecdotal reports of actually private out-of-pocket payers who travel to Germany to receive a treatment, but most of the providers in Germany reject treatments of COVID-19 patients for different reasons, either for hygiene reasons or for budgeting reasons. These patients are very difficult to budget. It's very difficult to predict the costs. So they're not very attractive for many of the hospitals. They're very risky. At the same time, what we observe in Europe is that there's an institutionalized patient transfer across national borders. That is, we have observed different initiatives at the federal level, at the state level, sometimes even at the municipal level, to support neighboring countries in Germany. And COVID-19 patients have been transferred to German hospitals for treatment. What can we say about the impact of COVID-19 in terms of source regions? We have, in terms of demand, there seems to be quite a stable, even some providers reported increased demand from Russia and Eastern Europe. On the other hand, the travel from the Middle East has essentially ceased up. And the main reason there is that this travel is typically institutionalized, that it's, it goes via embassies, and as all the personnel had been sent back, the travel dried up from the Middle East. That's very much in line with what we observe in terms of medical visas. It's still possible at the moment to receive a medical visa in Russia, whereas there's basically no medical visas being issued in the Middle East. And finally, what we can state is that that travel is one of the main problems for medical tourism at the moment. It's the bottleneck for some of the key source regions that Germany usually attracts international tourists from or international patients from. Flights are being canceled, rerouted last minute. There's some increase in private travel among the group that can actually afford that, or among patients that have the option to travel privately, for example, by car. There are some countries such as Ukraine that don't require medical visas, and they do actually travel by car to Germany. So that can be observed, but the large bulk travels by flight, and that's a real problem in terms of logistics at the moment. So what is the actual path forward that providers in Germany anticipate, rather? Well, what we can see is that there's a shakeout in terms of service providers in the sector. Facilitators, small insurances, they consolidate or disappear from the market, essentially. Many of these small facilitators and small service providers cannot survive such an extended time span that we're experiencing right now in terms of COVID-19, and they have either consolidated or disappeared. As for providers, we anticipate that some of the smaller hospitals will probably abandon medical travel, but the larger players, they are just shifting their resources to the domestic system at the moment, and they are likely to shift them back to international patients as they can. And this is what I meant earlier, in that German providers are very deeply rooted in the domestic healthcare system. They're so busy and occupied with German patients at the moment, and international patients are such a small share overall. This is not a big problem to stop servicing international patients for at least a limited period of time. In terms of a catch-up effect, that'll be interesting to see. We've received very different feedback on that. We would expect some sort of backlog of elective treatments, in that international patients might travel to Germany later to catch up on the postponed treatment. But that is very unclear. Some of these elective treatments of possibly more acute character may be treated at home. Other providers do expect such a backlog, but German providers are not quite certain as to what to expect here. What most of the providers do anticipate is an increase in checkups and these kinds of treatments post-COVID-19. And that is something that we're currently preparing for. In terms of source region, many providers do expect the demand from GCC to decrease in general in the future for a number of reasons. On the other hand, we expect an increase in the future from Russia and CIS countries. We've run a survey in Russia, which hasn't been published yet, but the results are quite clear, that the reputation of the German healthcare system has absolutely skyrocketed in Russia in both absolute terms and also in relative terms compared to other countries' healthcare systems. So we would expect at least a return to the previous level, or maybe even an increase in terms of international patients from this region. It's also quite interesting to look at Europe, and Keith has alluded to this earlier. Many providers do expect increasing interest from patients from neighboring countries, or they are experiencing that already. The UK has been mentioned in terms of the backlog of treatments there in the national healthcare system, but we're also looking at other countries, Czech Republic, for example. These are specifically countries that have suffered a lot, or whose healthcare systems have suffered a lot or struggled a lot with COVID-19. And apparently patients from these countries are the ones that are now looking abroad for treatments. I've spoken about the increased cross-border cooperation earlier, and that's something that might play a bigger role, or that some providers anticipate to play a bigger role in the future also. These networks that have been established now to transfer COVID-19 patients across European borders might also, or hopefully will also, serve to transfer other international patients later, but that's still very much unclear. So final point I'd like to speak about is the strategy. We've spoken about, or I've spoken about, medical tourists who actually travel abroad to consume abroad, which is the mode of supply number 2. But what about the other modes? We would expect that providers engage in other modes of delivery to compensate for the medical tourism that has declined over the last 6 months. But that doesn't really seem to be the case in Germany. And again, one of the reasons seems to be that all these providers are so deeply rooted in the domestic system. Let me actually start with subsidiaries. Due to COVID-19, a lot of German hospitals weren't able to provide elective treatments to German patients, so they have very limited resources. That is something that they actually make money on also. And they have very limited resources at the moment due to COVID-19, and none of them are essentially looking abroad. As some large provider put it, the era of expansion plans abroad is absolutely over. And the same goes for travel abroad. So we do have a number of physician networks of physicians that travel abroad to deliver services to international patients, but that's very limited, and that's nothing that we expect anyone to focus on. In terms of telemedicine, I find that quite interesting. The answers ranged from anything from top priority to absolutely irrelevant. That is one of the reasons for that is, well, obviously some procedures, or many of the procedures that are being performed in Germany, they cannot be delivered via telemedicine, and that they require patients to travel. But at the same time, we have a problem, a structural problem in Germany, and that is, as the providers are all bound by the German fee schedule, telemedicine in general is very unattractive financially. There are very small fees to be made, and as I've said earlier, international patients pay the same fees as German public or private patients, and it's just very unattractive for providers at the moment to deliver these services. So we might see some of the telemedicine in the conversion part, but as I said earlier, at the moment the conversion rates are up to 100%, so that's nothing that's immediately necessary, but that might be something that becomes relevant later on, to engage in telemedicine as providers are attracting patients, but then in the end most of the procedures are expected to be performed in Germany, or must be performed in Germany. Which takes me to my final slide, to the outlook. So as we can probably summarize that the mode 2 delivery, that is medical tourism or medical travel to Germany, remains the focus of most of the providers. And we've also seen seen in the data that both the absolute and relative reputation of Germany's healthcare system has increased. That is something that we can definitely also see for South Korea, as Keith has demonstrated. And South Korea has also been in the press here in Germany, but it's probably a very different geographic region, so the target audiences don't intersect very much, I would say. What we also see is that not just has the reputation of Germany's healthcare system improved relative to others, but the negative impact of COVID-19 has been stronger on many of the competitors' domestic healthcare systems. I've mentioned Czech Republic before, which has probably caused more Czech citizens to inquire about healthcare services in Germany. Another country that's often mentioned here is actually Turkey, which has suffered quite severely from the, whose structures have suffered quite severely from COVID-19. New cross-border networks are a very interesting option in the future. They may pave the way for for future patients, but that's really unclear. It depends a bit on the European regulatory framework there, and whether or not anyone wants to push that at a policy level. But I said that earlier, medical tourism is not really on the political agenda here. So it's unclear whether or not these networks may be useful in the future. Overall, we would expect Germany to have a better relative position post-COVID-19, similar to South Korea in Asia. But in the end, that remains a prediction, and the actual outcome remains to be seen. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you very much for your wonderful presentation. We really enjoy your talk, and we'll have more talk in the parent discussion. Klaus Schwarl, researcher, and then he introduced Germany cases. Thank you very much. Let's move on to the next presentation. Laura McLurky is now ready in the studio, and she will be talking about tourism market during COVID-19 in South Korea.
Thank you so much. And I want to say thank you for those presentations. Wonderful, insightful information. And thank you to everyone who's watching wherever you are. It's a pleasure to be here. Before we get into it, I'm a mindfulness and meditation instructor, so I'd love if you would join me in some deep breaths. You've all been sitting down for way too long, so let's sit up straight, nice and tall. Everyone, I can see you at home. Sit up straight. That's it. There we go. There we go. And we're just going to take a nice deep breath in through the nose and out through the mouth. One more time. Are you not doing it? Come on, we've got to do this. In through the nose. Is to reduce my stress levels. Last one, in through the nose. Doesn't that feel nice? Thank you, everyone. I love that. Shaking the head, getting a bit limber. So the next presentation, as you can see, is about wellness tourism market in South Korea during COVID-19. Today, I'm going to talk a little bit about the past, the present, and the future. By that, I mean present and post-COVID-19. My name's Laura McLuckie. I'm from Scotland, in case you didn't get it by the accent. And I'm the CEO of Wellme Wellness Solutions, which is a company based in Busan. here in South Korea, and we develop and deliver boutique wellness experiences for corporate clients, for community clients, education, and various other hotels, retreats, etc. I've been doing that for, well, the company was born technically last year, so thank you 2020 for all you've given us. I'm also from broadcasting, so 15 minutes for me is like 6 seconds, so I'll try and be as succinct as possible. I run a wellness company, but I also host a radio travel show in Busan, and I also work, as you can see, in the International School of Busan as the yoga and meditation instructor for the whole school. So today, I'd like to talk a little bit about South Korea and wellness in general. We want to see how wellness tourism has been growing over the past 10 to 15 years or so, and then we'll look at some sites in South Korea, sites in Busan where I'm based, so that's where more of my expertise lies. The present, what's going on in South Korea at the moment because of COVID-19 in terms of wellness tourism. We're going to see some emerging trends that are coming into the contents and the programs that I've certainly seen popping up around. And then we're going to look at the future. Where do we go from here? What is the future? Nobody knows. But the past, we do know. South Korea and wellness, this is something that I find fantastic. South Korea has this intrinsic and really beautiful relationship with wellness and has had for hundreds and hundreds of years. So much so that it's so integrated into culture and into language and into life that it's not recognized as wellness per se. So for example, hot springs, which are everywhere, that's not wellness, that's just daily life. Traditional Korean medicine, oh, it's just daily life. The Jjimjilbang, which if you look at the Global Wellness Institute map of wellness services and products, Korea, Jjimjilbang, which of course is the Korean sauna. Forest and ocean, we have gorgeous landscapes here. Being on the peninsula, we've got the ocean on almost all sides and a fantastic array of mountains everywhere you look. So we've got the nature side of things covered. Temple stays, beauty and skincare, of course, the Korean wave has opened up the global market in terms of K-wellness, K-beauty, K-skincare, K-food. Kimchi, who doesn't love kimchi, right? And especially with this global phenomenon of eating broadcast, or in Korean, mukbang, where we can really appreciate how fresh and available and delicious, but also how healthy Korean food is. And then recently, we've seen more and more hotels and resorts opening up that have been really focused on wellness, which is wonderful. Okay, so pre-COVID-19, the government had designated wellness tourism sites. Now, these are broken down into 4 key areas: nature and forest, healing meditation, beauty and spa, and traditional Korean medicine. Now, I'm in Busan, which is the port city, and we have ocean wellness galore. And I'm so disappointed that the government didn't recognize ocean wellness as something that is, you know, a really substantial market, because in Busan, that's all you see. You see people at the ocean, people on the ocean, people in the ocean, and it's such a huge part of life in Busan, and I feel like that's somewhere that we can really develop. We can also see a lot of hotels and resorts, temple stays, and I'll talk a little bit about Helian's Zen Village Temple Stay Month, which is fantastic. It's done every year in the autumn, where foreigners specifically will be able to go and learn about Korean Buddhism. And of course, MICE and FAMTour, we can tap into that market. What we've done in Busan with my company and with other companies we've collaborated with, we've been really, of course, focused on domestic tourism, especially because of COVID-19 now, domestic tourism is all we have. And secondary wellness tourists, probably the main source of our kind of client base. However, we have some, you know, primary tourists now and again when we do wellness workshops, ocean wellness, yacht tours, walking meditation tours. These have all been really, really popular in the past, in Busan specifically. If we move on, oh, There we go. So if we move on, and I just want to share with you some really sad statistics. April is when things start to hot up in Korea in terms of tourism. In Busan specifically, 98.8% decrease compared to April in 2019. The next statistic there you can see country-wise, just decimated, basically. The tourism industry worldwide decimated by COVID-19. The table shows you August 2020, again, another key month in terms of the tourism calendar. The total number of tour visitors that came into Korea, just 8,634, down 99.3%, which is not surprising. It's just really, really sad, really tragic. So, yeah, basically we looked at full closure. Everything was off. Everything was closed. There was nothing that we could do. However, Korea is fantastic. It's an incredibly, like Keith kind of mentioned earlier on, it's an incredibly technologically advanced country, and everything we do it quickly, and we do it right, and we do it happily with smiles on our faces. So what we're seeing now across hospitals, across providers like myself, across other providers, we're seeing immunity boost programs. For example, Dr. Ananti, we've got beauty and hair spas that are utilizing immune boosting ingredients in their cosmetics, and food as well. That's playing a huge role in terms of going to a restaurant to eat a healthy meal. It's all about the immune system. So that's a really big keyword at the moment. Also, untacked wellness locations. For anyone who's an English speaker, untacked just doesn't sound right, but it's a compound word. It's two words together. The first one, undoing. Second one, contact. So if you have these untacked wellness locations, which by definition must be less popular than other wellness or other tourism destinations, they also have to have a cap on capacity. They've got to be outdoors, they've got to have a program that is available to families, to solo travelers, and so the government has found very quickly and designated 100 really beautiful destinations across the country to combat this, this fear of going out to the more popular places. For example, in Haeundae, which is South Korea's most famous beach, we hold a Guinness World Record for the most beach parasols, which is an absolute nightmare, but beautiful. But it's, it used to be the most popular beach in Korea, and this year, Songjeong was actually the most visited beach because it's a lot less populated, and people were just scared to go out and be around other people. And again, speaking with that, the untacked wellness locations, nature, forest healing, ocean wellness, outdoor programs, and online and hybrid programs as well. So Mindful Week, the Busan International Wellness Conference 2020, Wisdom 2.0 Korea, all utilized a hybrid model of running their wellness events. So I just want to give you a couple of examples that I visited recently. The first one is Dr. Ananti. It's an antitoxin and vitality private clinic. So they've got the hospital side, but they also run programs with yoga, meditation, and they are really, I mean, as with all places, they were quiet at the beginning, but they've really been able to utilize their skills in terms of how they deal with COVID-19 regulations. For example, they have an individual client space, they've got immunity boost treatments and packages, and they are collaborating with outside providers to be able to do things off-site as well. If we look at Helian Sen Village, which is the first well-aging healing resort here in Korea, they're also looking at the market during COVID-19, and I spoke with the manager, and something that was very interesting to me was I assumed that because of COVID-19 the numbers would dip. And initially in February 2020 that was what happened, but as Korea started to become more comfortable with social distancing, and we had, you know, a lot less numbers on the chart, the international or the domestic foreign tourists actually increased. So the manager said to me, before COVID-19, we didn't have so many international visitors, but during COVID-19, we've had so many more international visitors because, of course, travel bans, there's re-entry permits that may not be granted, the mandatory 2-week quarantine period. So that's forced people to look domestically for their wellness or domestically for their travel experience. And so resorts like Helian's have been able to see the benefit of that, which is really, really optimistic in terms of how we can move forward. Also, Helian's are doing collaboration with outside providers as well to be able to promote domestically and also open up to a global market within the country. So the present. There's our WellMe manager there. She's wonderful. Hello, Miran. So the really good news is we now have a wellness-seeking population. Before COVID-19, we didn't even care about washing our hands after the bathroom. Some of us didn't care. But now everybody is very, very hyper-aware, not only of hygiene, but of our immune system. Again, this is this key word. We've also got a lot more issue with other people. We've got an issue with personal space. And we're living a little bit in fear of our own health, but it has wakened us up in terms of being very aware of, first of all, the need for wellness, and secondly, the fact that it's really accessible and the places that we can go to find it. But what's going on just now here in Korea, 14-day mandatory quarantine period means that international tourism is still pretty much not going to happen. Mandatory masks, social distancing, caps on capacity, and taking things online. So where we are seeing great progress is in the domestic market. Unfortunately, international, you know, like again, Keith mentioned in the first presentation, how long is it going to take to get back to normal, or is this it? So I'm just going to share with you very briefly some information about a survey that we're doing at the moment. Now, this is still an open survey, so we're still collecting data, but we asked the questions about COVID-19. And asked, COVID-19 has increased my awareness of my need to pursue wellness. 75.4% of people said agreed or strongly agreed. Influenced me to seek out wellness tourism activities. 56.8% of respondents said yes or strongly yes. And then COVID-19 has influenced my choice of wellness tourism activities, which is very important here, 59.2%. And the trend that we've seen is people want to be in nature. People want to be away from people, and they want to be connected and feel that connection. Also, to have fun and feel alive was 93.8% of people's most important motivation. And I think we all need some of that. We've not had enough fun. So where do we go from here? K-Wellness is heading to those keywords: immunity boost, untact, hybrid. This is what we're looking at for the foreseeable future, and this is where we need to position ourselves to the domestic market at the moment and then build that reputation. Because when you think of Korea, you don't automatically think wellness, but we'll get there. The great thing about it is that we have a brand new, population that really wants wellness. There's this wellness-seeking trend, so we're seeing it a lot more. The government in Korea has been fantastic at building up this wellness tourism destination catalog, if you like, and they are continuously promoting overseas, here domestically, and they have a wellness tourism supporters fan group, and they go around the country. It's SNS influencers, and it's just fantastic. What I would say is we need more multilingual contents and international specialists, because at the moment that would be the one thing that is holding us back in terms of really growing that internationally appealing content with the Korean twist. And both of those are really important to keep. So we've got to have the content creation here in Korea, but we want to expand it out a little bit. And then finally, not to be too bold, but I would like to say that the future is K-wellness. You know, the Korean wave is incredibly influential across the world at the moment. And these are all pictures that I've personally taken or had at our events. And there's so much going on. There's so many things that we've got to share with the world. And I'm so excited that we're going to be able to do that soon, especially after how well we handled how well the government handled COVID-19 when it first started. And that is my presentation for today. Thank you so much for listening. Thank you for your time, and we hope to see you in Korea very soon. 네, 고맙습니다.
Thank you. 고맙습니다. Thank you very much. Laura Manglarky for the kind introduction of K-Organized, and also it's really good for me to know that Korea has a lot of contact-free attractions. Thank you very much for sharing that. So, ladies and gentlemen, let's welcome our last guest speaker, Laszlo Pruko from Hungary, and his talk will focus on what does wellness mean post-COVID-19.
Thank you. I think it's a very valid question, especially after the presentation so far. Keith, Klaus, and Laura, you all raised very relevant points, and interestingly, it appears to many that wellness is a new thing or a popular thing or a trend thing. And I would like to really challenge that, since if you ask me personally, I don't think there's anything new about wellness. It has been around for ever since humankind is around. Just we didn't necessarily call it that way, didn't necessarily put that label on top. That's a good thing as well as a challenging thing, and I want to raise a couple of pointers here. I think that's quite a good word. All the English speakers might appreciate that we are in general in a kind of a grumpy mood that we are not traveling. Domestically, yes, but we really got used to traveling to places which we really wanted to visit, regardless of the actual location. And in that case, in that sense, international travel is almost out. And obviously, we're not necessarily being able to visit places we wanted to visit or do things that we would like to do. So people are actually interested in looking around and finding out what may be happening in the next year or so, and what we can be even thinking of in terms of travel. I think we all know that there's always been a status anxiety, especially in urban environment in Western first world problem, but now it's changed to health anxiety, which is a major problem here about health and related issues. I think it's very important to highlight that we have a shift in terms of focus, which is lifespan or health span. And I think we should be really thinking about the health span. And that's what the World Health Organization is suggesting, that really we should be dealing with the health span and not just the number of years, but more like how we are living our lives. And then it becomes a very hot topic. And that's why this wellness this and wellness that is a good thing, as well as easily can become a very tired expression, and we need to look into the actual depth of it. I think it's an interesting little pointer here, that when you look around for various discussions, I found this very entertaining and as well as interesting piece, which says in the title that wellness is a waste of time, and I have to agree with the author here that wellness is often just a big con. Now we are selling anything and everything under wellness, including electronic equipment, foods, watches, clothes, even cars for the matter. And it's a little bit tiring. I'm personally really tired of this whole wellness craze, because it's often, not always, I'm saying often, it's without actual content or without actual meaning. It's just a relabeling of what has been around for a long time. And as Laura also mentioned, in many parts of the world, they didn't use the label, but they have been practicing wellness, or if you wish, well-being improving services and practices for hundreds or thousands of years. And now we are relabeling it. When we look at various trends, issues, I think it's a relatively important pointer here. And that is what kind of trend issues we can see, from engineered environments down to crowdsourced health-related or wellness-related services, gamified fitness, smarter intakes, and all that. And these are wellness improving, wellness contributing services and approaches, some of which never been called and shouldn't be called wellness as a term. There we need to look out for various other terms, and then I will get to that, what it actually means to customers as well as to industry. I want to share a couple of points from the study that we did with the Wellness Tourism Association, and the launch of the detailed results will be next week at the annual members meeting, and I will, you can always check our various social media web presence, and then you can find out the results very soon. A couple of major issues here, and one is that it's been a change in terms of what's been happening in terms of understanding, and I believe that's very important that we have comparison between academia and industry, since there's a lot of research, and Klaus can confirm, and that has been a lot of research on what well-being is, and industry now recently recognized that that's what well-being probably is new about it, and it's taking over wellness as a term, since well-being is a very academic terminology, and in many languages that's what actually counts, and not wellness, because it's been considered as an industry label only. And this is when we need to look into inspirations for communication as well as product development. It's about life, it's about how we feel about life, and it's not necessarily about what we transcribe in terms of numbers or data, because this is very, very personal. And this is a word cloud of the actual study that we did. You can see the frequency of various terminologies. And you look at the industry, you can see that it's more like a state of how we live, and not necessarily the feeling. So we have a bit of an issue here between industry and academia, that they don't necessarily follow the same understandings, and rigorous academic research, I think, often is quite useful for industry to see that terminologies and understandings can be very, very different. And just because we label something in one way, it doesn't necessarily mean that the customers use exactly the same labels. Couple of pillars, which are, I think, rather interesting here, and how we should be looking into pillars, because as you know, well-being has 6 major pillars. And we can see that most of the time we're looking into the physical, because that's about massages, treatments, and all those sort of things. But it is very much anticipated that all across board we should be paying way more attention to the emotional pillar, and also to spirituality. That's, I think, a confirmation to what Laura has been sort of talking about, in terms of what is really interesting over here, but it's more of the very foundations of how we do product development, what wellness may be in 4.0, just like industry does. I think it's very, very important that we need to be complex, we need to be integrative, and need to be holistic in terms of approach. That's very nice. At the moment, that's very strategic, it's very back of house. But we need to translate it. We need to introduce it to guests as well as to industry, because I believe industry is missing a point often of what they believe wellness is or wellness should be to customers, and how that should be introduced to guests. Let me give you a couple of motivation and trigger points, because that, I think, is rather important. And especially looking into the massive discrepancies in terms of how our survey suggests industry or academia may look at these trigger points. This is what makes people buy things. This is what they're looking for. They don't necessarily look for wellness per se, but they're looking for self-healing. They're looking for belonging. They're looking for recharge. They're looking for distressing. They want to reward themselves. This is the terminology that we should be looking into, but that's not necessarily what's happening. And you can see the differences. And this is where I think industry, academia, and we all would need to have a much better discussion and way more critical discussion, since we are pushing by wellness this and wellness that, but the fundamental trigger for anything which is labeled as wellness is these triggers. Could be more, of course, but I'm just giving you a couple. So if nothing else, just food for thought that anytime you are labeling anything wellness, look behind, because self-healing could be the major issue, especially when we have a mental stress, as we have been living through at the moment. And this is another term that Keith can confirm, that when you talk to hospitals and they say, forget medical or healthcare, talk to me about healing, they might say, oh God, what are you talking about? Some mumbo jumbo, maybe, because that's what healing is. Because healthcare professionals don't necessarily understand healing as such, because it's very kind of a gray area. But when you go to Asia or go to Central America, South America, healing is, or Africa, is a central part of lifestyle. Self-healing, traditional healing, and healing based on natural cultural resources is absolutely fundamental. And they are not going to call it wellness, and you need to avoid that mistake. I think that's a great expression of how the new normal can respond to expectations. And obviously the participation numbers may be smaller, and that may be a risk to offer something which is economically viable. But I really like that design, because it really gives you the feel and sense of separation and, say, distance and safety, but at the same time visually is pleasing. It's not a restriction per se. It's more like a different way of introducing what's really possible. And this is what I think we need to look out for. I really like this, another little piece, that sober is the new cool. Yeah, and this is what, you know, especially in certain countries, being sober, taking over alcohol can be a critical and very interesting topic. But we have sober bars or dry bars where you pay as much for a non-alcoholic drink as you would pay for a very complicated cocktail or a very expensive wine. That's maybe just a trend, maybe just a fashion thing, but we need to look out for all these options and how we can incorporate, again, the trigger behind it, why people are happy to pay as much money for soda, if you wish. But you can't call it that way, because that would be very much degrading what the value is represented here. Which one to choose? When we work with clients, either destinations or governments or, sorry about that, in private developers, we understand 4 major directions in business. One is the wellnessification, where the whole service provision is rewired, if you wish, and incorporate various wellness, improving approaches, services, and treatments. So everything from gastronomy down to accommodation, or even to typical, traditionally spa-labeled services. Still, we have a lot of illusion, which is, since Laura also introduced a lovely word, composite word, this is another one, which is illusion based on some wellness thing, which looks lovely, has the necessary Instagrammable quality, but the actual content behind it may fall very weak. But still, that's sellable. So people and companies and brands do follow that approach. We have Weltertainment, which is basically an entertaining little activity, which at the same time, because it's fun and it's joyous, directly incorporates some wellness improving qualities, either physical or mental or social. But at the same time, it would need to be fun, since many service providers in wellness still keep their little temple and take this literally or not, that you need to be quiet, you need to be distant, not just physically, but also mentally, distant from others, and it can cause stress. And we need to look into the Wellinent, which is an eminent service provider, which is really, really focusing on one thing. Not on a lot of things, just one thing, but you do that very, very well. And of course, the temple stays would fall under this category, and all the other retreats that are focusing on nothing else but, say, silent meditation. So, choice is yours. Which one would you choose? I would like to have a couple of examples, and this is a tradition for locals, and we have a speaker in the second session, and I'm sure she can refer to this because it's in Japan. And is it entertainment? Is it Weltertainment? Although at the same time it's a traditional healing practice for the local community. But for tourists, for visitors, that would be an entertaining thing to do, and very, very, it looks great on Instagram. Which one is it? That's really up to you, and it's the destination manager's decision. And this is from China, for the matter. And again, it's Weltertainment in a way, because you are baking eggs in hot springs. And then you have the minerals, getting into the egg, and then you can boil your very own egg in a hot spring, which is a great entertainment quality. And at the same time, you are taking in some essential minerals. Again, it's up to you how you call it, but these are the issues that we need to look out to. And say a floating sauna, which is one from Estonia in Europe, which is a very, very basic thing, and there's nothing in it, no electricity or anything, but you are on a small lake, you're floating around with your very own private sauna, and enjoy the lake, enjoy some physical activities. At the same time, you enjoy the benefits of taking the hot steam or the dry heat. These are tiny little examples of creating a very new proposition. And I think, Keith, you would absolutely like this one, because we call it binge wellness, which is anyone would like to have gin and tonic yoga, which again, anyone who is a hardcore wellness person might say, a hardcore yoga person, absolutely no way, that's the Antichrist, that's just absolutely impossible. But to others who say, you know what, I can have some fun, I don't want to be totally 120% focused as much, I would like to enjoy myself as well. And I would like to try that, especially when you have younger people, when you have even men would enjoy certain kind of, Klaus, there's beer yoga in Germany, so you can enjoy that. I can drive you to that place if you wish, so that's possible. So it's just inviting different kind of segments into the business. Obviously, the point is not to get totally drunk, but just get some entertainment value here. All right, I think we need to look into some conversation, which is, everybody knows UX and CX, which is customer experience or user experience. What we do, and I really would like everybody to even think about it, which is well-being experience design, which is WX. And you go through the whole service provision and you check where you can incorporate some additional components that can contribute to your wellness, but not necessarily called wellness. The landscape that we are using and suggesting, and feel free, that's available on our web, that it would go way beyond the usual understanding of the well-being landscape and who has what kind of role in it in leisure and sports and recreation and community lifestyle. in facilities and cultural resources and the local economy or public health. So please, I really suggest in the understanding of new wellness that go beyond the usual boundaries, either physical or even legal or traditional, because the wellness would need to be way wider in terms of its understanding. Some messages that I would like you to consider and take home, and that is, don't think that wellness is new. Don't fall for this premise that, yes, I just recognized 10 years ago that wellness, it really, really isn't. And especially not in Asia, especially not in Korea, South Korea, it really isn't. And also don't mix wellness demand with wellness tourism, because people do have demand for certain wellness improving services, but they may not have demand for wellness tourism when the whole package is about it. So be strategic and do your homework and translate whatever you have locally in that sense, but don't fall for something that now everything is going to be wellness tourism. And consider that value propositioning based on WX can be very different than it used to be. You may need to talk to well-being archaeologists. They don't exist, but we can create a couple of those, who can help you and guide you through how has been going on wellness-related services in that local community or destination for quite some time, and it would help you to work towards a new wellness understanding. And just confirming some of the previous points, people look for services, destinations, and offers, but don't necessarily they don't look for wellness per se. They look for something which eventually will contribute to their wellness or well-being, but in the end, it's not necessarily called that way. So don't fall for that, but be aware that people are really interested. And in South Korea, I think, as just confirming, Laura, you are positioned in a very, very good place, because you have all the resources and the support of the government. But be careful in terms of what's wellness service and what's wellness tourism. There's overlap, but not quite the same. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Laszlo Pujuko, CEO from Hungary. Thank you very much for your wonderful presentation. We've really enjoyed it. So, ladies and gentlemen, since we listened to all the presentation in the session 1, we proceed panel discussions. Also, we have Keith Pala still there, right? Yes.
I'm still here, yes.
Thank you very much. So he will also joining our panel discussion. And one panelist here, Mr. Jit Dindusa, thank you very much. So since we are all ready for the active panel discussions, I would like to hand over microphone to Professor Ki Nam-jun for our moderating.
Thank you. I'd like to express my sincere gratitude to the speakers. In this time of COVID-19 chaos, we have desperately needed the insight for the future. They made great presentations. They tried to share their insight with us. Let me first briefly review their presentations. Keith made a thorough review of the impact of COVID-19 on the global medical travel market. He made an important message for us: minimize the impact, exploit the opportunities. We could improve our reputation because we were effective in controlling the COVID-19. We need to develop a new message concerning our competitive advantage. Krauss analyzed the impact of COVID-19 on the medical travel market. He also talked about the medical travel market outlooks. He foresees that Germany would be in a better relative position post-COVID-19. Laura talked about wellness tourism market in South Korea. After analyzing the impact of COVID-19 on K-wellness tourism market, she suggested the future direction of this market. Laszlo cited the research report from Wellness Tourism Association. He mentioned the importance of complex, integrative, and holistic approach. I like his suggestion on take-home message. He suggested us to be well-being archaeologists. I really like this word. We need to identify local wellness resources and turn them into global wellness tourism products. Jit, you have been in this medical tourism market for several years. Could you give us your opinion? If you have any questions, you can ask the speaker.
Yeah, sure. So a little bit about me. My expertise has primarily been in the medical beauty tourism market. And often when it comes to medical tourism, that sort of overshadows all other types of tourism here in Korea. Korea is known as a beauty, for its beauty tourism market. And with wellness, it's well worth over trillions of dollars. 4.7 was one figure I've heard. And the government would really like to make Korea a competitive destination for wellness. And I've seen some great presentations from Laszlo, Laura, and Klaus to gather some insights about this. Now, if I can kind of impart some wisdom of why I think South Korea really hit a home run when it came to cosmetic surgery, dentistry, skincare, and beauty tourism, it sort of, I want to say, boils down to two factors, such as social proof and validation that people recognize in popular culture that Korea is the go-to place for beauty tourism, whether it comes from popular culture and films and Korean pop stars that are making their way around the globe, as well as competition. In our industry, we're trying to kill each other. There's over 400 to 500 clinics battling for market share in space. There's facilitators constantly battling with each other, and that's pushing and driving a lot of innovation. Now, wellness here in Korea still seems a little bit uncontested because it's not really been packaged and marketed and players kind of organizing themselves in such. I think it's really exciting what Laura's doing in that she's sort of pioneering this space here domestically. And Laszlo in Europe, you know, he's he's been working with destinations that have already been well entrenched and seasoned as wellness destinations. So I'm wondering, you know, how can we make South Korea a wellness, like how can we put it on the map? Like, how can we make the next Eat, Pray, Love film filmed over here and market that as a destination where in the minds of people around the world, they associate wellness with Korea? How can we do that? And I'd like to maybe ask Laura, since she's already in the market trying to pioneer this space.
Thanks for putting me on the spot. Thank you for your question. It's a $1 million question, right? Honestly, I'm probably not the best person to ask because I'm kind of I'm more of a ready, shoot, aim kind of person. So I just get into it and, you know, figure it out halfway through. What I would say is, in terms of wellness, it's really undefined in Korea. That's something that we have seen time and time again. What is wellness? If you ask my Korean friends, and I often do, I say, what is wellness? They'll say, food, yoga, meditation. And there's a real disconnect between what wellness is and what wellness looks like. And that has been in part because of social media. It's been in part because it is so integrated, so it doesn't seem to be like it could be wellness. And I think I really loved what Laszlo said earlier, and big fan of your work, by the way. And I really loved, you know, the new parts of what we can see in terms of wellness contents coming out. So is sober the new wellness? And looking at these different aspects of what could be termed wellness. But it's a very difficult one. Personally, what I would love to see is taking traditional Korean culture, traditional Korean language and resources, oceans, mountains, and then utilizing what we have here already and developing some really beautiful contents that are being sent out into the world. And how do we do that? I'm not a marketer, I have no idea. But what we're doing here is just trying to develop those contents to build up a reputation and to come out strong when we do in fact get to come out onto the other side. And I would love to hear actually if anyone else has any kind of comments on that, because I'm the least experienced from all of our fantastic speakers today. So, you know, wonderful question, but I'm also curious about the answer.
Laura, do you have any question to the speakers?
So actually, I do have a question to Laszlo again. I hate the idea of gin and tonic yoga. Hate it. And I'm definitely not, you know, a severe yogi, but I think my personal practice is from a place of yoga is a way to connect the body and mind. And for me, that's really a personal experience, and that exactly touches on your point again of wellness is different for everyone. And that's what I have been preaching to everyone I pass gets a sticker. Wellness is different for me, because it's all based on what we already have inside. So my question would be, where do you draw the line between individual wellness, what we see as wellness, and this beautiful new branch of wellness tourism products, and when does it become a gimmick? When is it just for fun and no longer wellness related?
Well, thank you, Laura. You know, to some people, gym can also do the same that yoga does to others. That's just, you know, depends how you look at it. No, and seriously, I think this is I think for you, the last part of your question is probably the most tricky one, which is when it becomes just fun. And I somehow quite hesitant about why fun is not part of wellness. Why is just fun is something different, or not good enough, or not enough in general. I believe that what we really need to be aware, and this is, you know, industry job, this is government job, is a planner's job, strategist job, that we have a lot of different services, lot of different assets, different resources, and travel or leisure activities in general, not regardless, they contribute to the well-being of the user or the consumer. That's, you know, that's a fact. The contribution to your state of well-being. Whatever you do, family visits, going to conferences, eating out, just have a walk in the forest, looking over the ocean, all those activities would contribute one way or another. Short-term, short-lived, but they contribute to your well-being. That's why we need to separate services as well as communication and related marketing from anything that is related to contribution but not labeled, and those which are de facto labeled, like the Anandi, going there and taking treatments. And I don't think just fun would be or should be called wellness, but we know that it does contribute. So a good laughter is part of healing. Having a positive outlook is part of a happier lifestyle and often longer life. So just fun is not certainly a wellness service, but helps to be in a better state or a more well state. Probably is not quite an answer to your question, but what I really find painful even to look at, not necessarily the Jina Yoga or the beer and yoga class for you, but very much so the mishmashing what's happening at the moment, that now anything and everything is wellness, and now we're squeezing everything under the wellness umbrella, and it's trillions and billions and all that, none of which is justified by actual data, but it's now becoming a lovely label that we can sell anything and everything. And that really puzzles me, and I'm really tired of all this. But there you go. Don't forget, we always have labels. 10 years ago, it was eco or sustainable. Now it's wellness. And I'm sure 5 years' time, we will have another toy that industry or people will be playing with. But this is why I'm stressing service providers as well as government to please don't fall for these lovely issues, because that when you call someone Generation W, which is Generation Wellness, that's, to me, it's very alarming. Because either you're doing it or you're not doing it. When you do it for fashion, because if your generation suggests that the next generation will be something else, and the previous was something else again, then we devalue the heritage and tradition of the ginger bank, we devalue and we just reuse as a label, as a fashion item, or as a new trend, per se, the spirituality. And I don't really buy that. We are at the moment working with several service providers in a Central American country, and every one of them we hand-holdingly going through how you can improve the well-being of your guests, but we're not calling that as wellness trips. We know that in the end of the day, end of the trip, the guests will say, it was just a bit different, it was memorable, we felt happy, we were content, we were balanced, we had harmony, and that was the language that customers speak. They don't talk about well-being, they don't talk about wellness. They talk about some other measures.
Thank you, Laszlo. Now I will open up the floor for any questions. We have already received questions from the online participants. One question is for Keith. You have seen South Korea's ambitious efforts to develop medical tourism industry for last several years. From your perspective, what is the area we need to improve further? Keith?
Yeah, thank you, Keenan. I think, as I made, I think very strongly the point in the presentation, your country is perfectly positioned to exploit this opportunity. And I think if you look at the message, at the moment, there's no really clear message about what Korean medical tourism is about. If you just go to the Korea medical tourism site, take a good look at that and say, well, what does it actually say about Korea that makes us different? And it doesn't say anything. It just says, this is what we do. This is the stuff we can do. You really got to look at what is the message about clinical, you've been on the front page of newspapers worldwide that are really kind of conveying a message about the clinical excellence, the expertise that Korea offers, and about this whole thing about safety and reassurance. And it's coming up with a brand, a message that really sells that, and then applying it across kind of not just about across the hospitals and the clinics, but getting your airline involved, your national airline involved. Incheon Airport could be the safest airport in the world to travel to. So it's bringing a whole bunch of people together and say, how do we really get that message across? How do we exploit this opportunity? It is about branding, about thinking about what you say from this point onwards about your country in terms of what it has to offer in healthcare.
Okay, thank you, Keith. And there were so many questions posted. However, we run out of time, so I'd like to ask the last question to Kraus. You mentioned that demand from GCC would decrease. What are the reasons for your forecast?
That is actually the providers' expectations that we surveyed. And several of them expect the demand from GCC countries to decrease for a number of reasons. I'd like to point out at least two. First of all, I think we have to live, or the providers here expect to live with COVID-19, at least in the medium term. And that means it's going to affect travel from the various source regions differently. To give you a nice quote, which I think puts it quite nicely, one of the providers said, well, they don't expect demand from CIS countries to diminish because customers from CIS countries, they are accustomed to hardship and they're not deterred by COVID-19. You know, they'll find their way to their treatment regardless of COVID-19. I've mentioned that earlier, you know, we have people driving to Germany by car to get the treatment. Whereas patients from GCC countries may be less culturally inclined to travel in the face of adversity. That's one thing that that providers suspect in Germany, and the other thing, or the price that we surveyed rather, and the other point is that it's also more difficult for them to travel since they're traveling in larger groups. They're usually, at least the ones that go to Germany, they travel with families. And for them, it's even riskier or more difficult to travel as COVID-19 continues to be with us probably for at least another 12 months. So at least in that time span, they don't anticipate demand from GCC countries to increase and to rather stay low in the future also.
Thank you, Klaus. Yeah, it makes sense. Now I understand why. It looks like we will run out of time. So I guess we'll finish here. I deeply appreciate the speakers and the audience. Thank you for your contribution. Thank you.
Wonderful. We thank you very much for the discussion. Despite it being an online session, I believe it was sufficient enough to share a great information. Once again, thank you very much for the wonderful touring, Professor Nam, Jin, and Laura McLucky, and Jitin Dusa, and the studio. And also especially thank you, Keith Pollard and Klaus Schumaro and Lazaro Pujico from all the way your country, despite it's quite early in the morning. Thank you very much. And also our viewers are with us online, and we thank you for your great active interest and participation. So we're going to proceed to the next session after a short break. We're going to have a 10-minute break. Now I'll see you soon. Thank you very much. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. I hope you enjoyed a short break. So we'll resume the session. So today we're going to have a session 2 in this time around. We have 3 overseas cases regarding to preparation for post-COVID-19 medical wellness tourism market. So I'd like to introduce our speaker in the session too. Shireen Azali from Malaysia and Shireen Okamura from Japan are with us online. Thank you very much for joining us through online. And also the moderator, Professor Ki Nam-jin. Again, he will be with us as a moderator. Thank you for your effort, participation. And also we have wonderful panelists here, Laura McLurky. Again, thank you once again. And Don Byun, Executive Director of Tourism and MICE Division, Seoul Tourism Organization, are with us in the studio. Thank you very much for your precious time. Thank you all the speakers and participants for your time. And this session will continue panel discussions after 3 presentations are done. And also our viewers, stay with us. Thank you very much. Again, wave your hands. Hi. Good. Thank you. You're still awake. Thank you very much for active participation. So if you want to leave some question or messages, comments, you're very welcome to, visit our chat room and the Zoom conference room. So we'll collect some questions from you and we'll be talking about your talk, your question, and the parent discussion. Thank you very much. So, ladies and gentlemen, let us introduce our first presentation from Malaysia. Shireen Azali, CEO, Malaysia Healthcare Travel Council, is now online, and she will be talking about her topic is healthcare travel and the new norm.
Thank you very much. Annyeonghaseyo. Hello and good afternoon, everyone. I'm Shireen and I would like to share a little bit of Malaysia's story today with all of you. So let me share you my screen. Can you see that? Yes, okay. So, okay, so that's Malaysia. We are now going by the branding of the world's healthcare marvel, and there's a lot of story behind this. But I was listening to all our session 1 speakers, and I'm getting more inspired about the light at the end of this dark COVID tunnel. So hopefully, when we recover from COVID, our healthcare travel industry is going to be more exciting and will rebound as soon as possible. So when we speak about post-COVID-19 medical travel or healthcare travel world, what would it be like? How do we adapt to the new normal? So that's what we will be sharing today, and feel free to have questions for us at the end of the session in the forum later. So just a quick background of Malaysia before COVID. So this was the ranking in a research done by IMTJ Research. So our colleague there, our friend Keith was there just now, and it was underlying views on medical travel and tourism global market. That was where Malaysia was in terms of the arrivals of international patients coming into Malaysia. So we were at the top among the top medical tourism destinations. We were very happy with it. We were cruising as the top destination. We recently won as the destination of the year for medical tourism destination under the IMTJ Medical Travel Awards. So everything was looking great and fine for Malaysia, and if you look at how we have grown from the year 2015, 2019, we've been growing 16-17% year on year CAGR, and from revenue perspective, and we are growing from the volume as well. So everything was going the right direction for Malaysia. So, and for 2020, we had great plans. We were planning Malaysia Year of Healthcare Travel 2020 along the Visit Malaysia Year 2020. So 2020 was going to be great. A busy year, supposedly, for me and my colleagues at Malaysia Healthcare. Supposedly traveling the world, positioning Malaysia as a top destination and everything. And believe it or not, to 2020, I myself have not set foot in an aeroplane, and that's how big the impact is. Normally I would be traveling the world promoting Malaysia. And 2020, not once have I set foot in an aeroplane. So that's how bad it is for Malaysia. And these are the challenges that not only Malaysia is facing, but everyone all over the world. And, technically we had complete reduction of travel because we have a very strict lockdown in March, April and May. And then, we basically all the work, everything that Malaysia had done great before will be reset to the base ground. It's the same for everyone. Everyone is suffering. And technically, when we look at our original target, we were supposed to record 2 billion ringgit revenue to the hospitals this year with 10 billion ringgit impact to the total impact to the economy. And we are looking at about 70% reduction of our revenue on medical travel. And, thankfully, that's because we had a strong first quarter before the lockdown. So, and that's where we were. And then, and then we thought it's going to be a short, 3 months hit or 6 months on COVID. And we realistically, we don't know when our borders are going to be fully opened. So, yes, we had our successes in managing COVID. In the first phase, we had, Malaysia has been getting all these praises in the preparedness, ability to deal with COVID. We are among the highest testing in Asia. And, our Director General of Health as recognized as one of the world's top doctors. We are up there in terms of alongside South Korea. And we were very happy to learn as well from South Korea, especially when it comes to technology, how South Korea has done it. And, and Professor Kinam has been kind, to have exchanges with us as well along the way. And, but, so it all was fine for us. And then we have managed to, in a way, overcome COVID until, until recently. In October, we were hit with the third wave of COVID. So again, the public-private partnership that we had instilled during the first waves have been put in place again, so the public and private hospitals putting together our effort to combat the third wave. The third wave is currently still ongoing. As we speak now, Malaysia, most of the states in Malaysia are under a conditional lockdown. So technically, businesses go on, but we have strict SOPs that we have to follow. And most offices are working from home, like we are now. So, but, we are still riding the third wave of COVID. We are managing it. But before this, our recovery period was 97%. Now it has gone down to 70+% only. So because there are more new cases coming in and they haven't recovered. So we are dealing with the third wave of COVID. But what it hit us is that, we overcame COVID earlier. And then we sort of relaxed a little, and then we were hit with the third wave. So this is where we realized that, hang on, Malaysia, you need to adapt to the new normal. And we need to plan for our new future. So when you talk about new normal and new future, what do we do? How do we do this? So I think the new normal is going to be here for a very long time. I think it's beyond 12 months, perhaps. Even though with the availability of vaccines and everything, we need to address the excess of vaccines for all our people, not only for Malaysia, but for the world. Because even if Malaysia can afford vaccine for all our Malaysians and people living in Malaysia, but you can't open your borders unless people all over the world are also adapting, taking on the vaccine. So I think it's about the world adapting to the new normal. So for Malaysia, how do we do this? How do we plan for our new future? So that's what we have been debating, and I think even not only for medical travel but also for all our businesses. How do we balance, protecting the country from COVID infections and handling the crisis versus opening up our economy? So that's always been the thing that we are planning. Excuse me. So what do you do? So what we are doing now, the country is addressing these issues. What Malaysia Healthcare Travel Council is looking at for our medical travel as the key export service for the country, we are now going out, repositioning Malaysia Healthcare in a big way. We may not be as lucky as Korea to get all the big coverage all over the world in terms of how Korea has successfully handled COVID. We need to do more because not everyone have heard about how well Malaysia has dealt with COVID. So what we are doing now is we are going out and repositioning and rebranding Malaysia as a world's healthcare marvel, showcasing all of our healthcare best practices. We talked about the continuity of care through telehealth and using of the technology, and we are developing Malaysia as a thought leaders in terms of content when it comes to not only healthcare travel, but from the healthcare overall. So we are now currently in the process of, actually we have deployed our aggressive PR and branding campaigns. During COVID time, we are supporting and enabling, facilitating all our healthcare facilities, public and private sector especially, and also amplifying our expertise, having webinars. We do a lot of health talks, etc., all on the social media, so that we will continue to engage. We continue to engage our 1.3 million patients that came into Malaysia last year. We do not want to lose them, so we continue with the engagement with them through the World's Healthcare Marvel campaign that we are currently running at the moment. But doing that, we are adapting to the new normal. So we must make sure that how do we handle all these things? How do we build stronger foundations in terms of pushing to the better and quicker recovery? We stand on the trust that we had before, and we build stronger trust. We want people to remember Malaysia as the place where you can have quality care for their peace of mind. So they have that brand that Malaysia is a world's healthcare marvel, and we can trust Malaysia, and you have the peace of mind when you come for Malaysia. You'll be safe, you'll be getting the best global treatment. So that's what we are doing currently. So we are building capacity along the end-to-end value chain. We're training industry players. We're building new partnerships for marketing and patient referrals, even though they cannot freely come into Malaysia. We explore new technology to support this new normal and, create new behaviors and, for our existing and potentially new patients that we can, that would be able to come to Malaysia during that period. But, we acknowledge the borders are not going to be open for very soon. So that's why on the 19th of June, we have created a medical travel bubble, and that's the first sector that was opened to welcome patients coming into Malaysia on the 1st of July. But we have very strict protocols, very strict SOP in filtering our patients to, when they want to come into Malaysia. So, and then we had phases to allow them to come in, and that's where we are focusing on at the moment. So then the 5th October, we have allowed patients to come on commercial flights as well from less risky countries. So that's what Malaysia Healthcare Travel Council has worked towards. So what is that new future for Malaysia Healthcare, for our healthcare travel journey. So, it comes to a stage now that if you want, you need to apply to come to receive treatment at our member hospitals, and then we have, we will give permission, we will work with the immigration department. They have to test for COVID before they come in, PCR test 3 days prior, and then they can travel by chartered commercial flights or ambulance according to their, where the country they're coming from. Upon arrival, Malaysia Healthcare Travel Council and hospitals will welcome them directly and take them directly to the hospitals. They have the 14-day quarantine while they undergo treatment, and then only after day 13, if they test negative, can they leave, or they leave the hospitals for follow-ups, etc. So these are the current travel journey. And since the 1st of July, we have welcomed many patients already coming back into the country, and that has helped with our revenue in rebounding from COVID pandemic. So currently we are under phase 2. We have phase 2B and we have phase 2C. As and when COVID improves and as and when our borders get relaxed, we will move into the different phases. So currently we are in the phase 2, where we allow some countries, patients from some countries to enter by commercial flights, but the others we are still strict with chartered flights or air ambulance. So that's some pictures of the arrivals. You can see that our hospitals are in PPEs, welcoming patients, etc. But we do this in the interest of the patients themselves. Patients need to feel safe when they arrive in Malaysia, and they need to know that they are getting the best care for their treatment and they are safe from any kind of risk. It's also to protect Malaysia and Malaysians as well. So all the different cases, they have arrived in Malaysia since the 1st of July, and we are still welcoming quite a few of them as well as we speak. And we are hoping that, by 2021, we are seeing a healthy rebound moving to 2023. That's our chart. If you don't do anything, the red one would be, where we are. So we are trying to work towards the blue curve so that we can actually rebound faster from the pandemic. So we will run our Malaysia, the World's Healthcare Marvel campaign actively from now on, and then we will relaunch our Malaysia Year of Healthcare Travel as and when times get more suitable and better. So, and talking about the support and the trust from our Malaysian government, they have continuously supported our effort in terms of promoting healthcare travel as the key export service for Malaysia, one of the key export services. And this was announced last Friday in the budget 2021 for the country. And that's the Minister of Finance presented the budget, and we are given an extra 35 million ringgit for this, for 2021 to beef up the campaign and the activities to ensure a stronger rebound for Malaysia Healthcare Travel Council. So, and that's our Director General of Health. He says that I strongly view that addressing COVID is an all of government, all of society responsibility. And that's what Malaysia is doing at the moment. And even though we are tested with the third wave of COVID, we are positive that we will rebound, we will get out of that very soon, and our economy will rebound healthily in 2021. And I would like to thank everyone for your attention. And thank you very much to Professor Kinam for this invitation, and also to the team. And I look forward to your question. Kamsahamnida.
감사합니다. Thank you very much, CEO Sherry Nestle, for your very enthusiastic presentation. We really enjoy your presentation, and she kindly introduced Malaysia's healthcare system under the circumstances of COVID-19. Thank you very much. We'll have more talk and the panel discussion. All right, let's move on to the next presentation. Let's go to China. Well, Mr. Hou Shengtian, Professor, Beijing University of Chinese Medicine, is now with us online. Oh, I think, is he there with us? Okay, so his talk will be about opportunities and actions for TCM health tourism in China under COVID-19. So let's enjoy the presentation.
Hello everyone, greetings from SITMMT2020. I'm speaking in Beijing. First of all, I'd like to say thanks to Professor K. Nam Jin, who invited me to speak at this conference. As you are watching this video, it means the live connection does not work. It's wise for the organizer who asked me to pre-record this video, as there are always uncertainties. Yes, we are living in an uncertain world. The world are going through a hard time for the last year due to COVID-19. While we need to be more patient and more united efforts needed to fight against the virus, we also need to know the future and to plan for the future. So my speech today is relevant to the future of medical and health tourism in China. I have prepared some slides. Let me share the slides. First, I would like to brief you the development of health tourism in China. I need to explain some keywords in my speech, as I found there are always different understandings of the same term. In my speech, medical tourism refers to cross-border patient service, both inbound and outbound. But for health tourism, there are both broad and narrow definitions. For broad definition, it refers to both medical tourism and wellness tourism. But for narrow definition, it is equal to wellness or recreation tourism. In China, there are also some subsectors for health tourism. They are forest wellness tourism, TCM recreation tourism, and hot springs therapy tourism. Different countries have different positioning strategies. What is China's strategy in medical and health tourism? This is an article I published 10 years ago. In this article, I suggested to the Chinese government China should position itself with TCM recreation tourism. So for health tourism, or the narrow definition, recreation tourism, it refers to a new integrated industry supplying a set of services and products based on medical, biotechnology, and life sciences, coupled with pleasant natural environment and civilization resources, with the aim of maintaining, improving, and promoting public health to achieve physical and mental perfection and improved adaptability. There are hundreds of different projects or destinations in China relevant to health tourism. This is one of the most well-known projects. It's a national project. In this project, it is named by the National Health Commission. There are 13 cities which are under construction to build demo bases for health tourism. There is another list. It is named by the National Administration of Traditional Chinese Medicine and the National Administration of Tourism 3 years ago. In this list, there are altogether 15 cities. For both these two projects, it meant within 3 years they need to build up, to be a demo zone, or to be a demo basis for health tourism. Since then, Chinese health tourism developed very fast. You found hundreds of projects, large or small, which are under construction. There are already some projects which have started to serve health tourists. But we also have problems, especially due to the COVID-19. The main problems for health tourism development in China are as follows. 1. Narrow concept and limited boundary perceptions. This refers to the practitioners. While they are designing their projects, they understand this industry from word. It needs to expand the boundary of the new industry. Second, difficulty in integration and convergence. This integrated new emerging industry is not easy to integrate 2 or 3 different industries. 3. Focus too much on hardware and lack of creativeness in business model and products. 4. Standard service system is absent. 5th, marketing and branding skills need to be improved. 6. No unified governmental coordination departments. There are several governmental coordination departments, but there is no unified one. The last challenge is badly in need of health tourism professionals. Despite of all those problems, there are also opportunities. Let me brief you the trends and opportunities for health tourism in China. As COVID-19, the virus, no one knows when it will disappear. I do not use post-COVID-19, but for dual circulation, this is a new strategy of the Chinese government to deal with the new problems resulted from the uncertain world environment and also COVID-19. There are both factors of positive and negative influence medical and health tourism in China. As for positive factors, first, the health market of China will increase under the dual circulation development pattern. China has huge room to increase domestic demand. The shift from exporting to meeting domestic demand will result in greater demand of Chinese consumers and give its vast landmass, abundant resources, and the capability to build a relatively sound industrial chain. China can boost its economy by greatly relying on growing domestic demand. Insufficiency of high-quality medical service will not be made up in a short period of time. This is the favorable factor for outbound medical tourism. Medical services are also technology and innovation centered. Sufficient supply of medical service needs heavy and long-term investment. To meet the demand of 1.4 billion people with high-quality medical service is a big challenge and will need years of continuous efforts. The gap will remain large for long term. The third positive factor is China will remain its open door policy. The dual circulation pattern, it is true, it will be centered on the domestic economy. But what China is really pursuing is a smooth functioning of the economic cycles of both the domestic and the global markets based on the healthy performance of the domestic economy, which means China will not shut the door on the world, and instead it will further open up its economy to the outside world. As a matter of fact, China favors globalization, especially a closer regional economic relationship and collaboration. The fourth factor is China is pursuing high quality and sustainable development. So medical and health tourism in China will develop. There are also negative factors, especially to cross-border medical tourism. First, uncertain world environment. The first challenge is the rapidly changing international environment. As the global economy faces recession, international trade and investment are shrinking. To make matters worse, some countries have resorted to protectionism and unilateralism, increasing geopolitical risks. Secondly, long-term influence of COVID-19. As I mentioned earlier, no one knows when COVID-19 the virus will disappear. The pandemic has hindered China's economic development, as also happened in other areas. And if the global pandemic situation does not improve in the near future, the chain risks fracture. Number 3, increased investment and efforts in elevation of high-quality medical service might affect outbound medical tourism from long-term perspective. The dual circulation strategy is about striking the right balance between internal and external circulation. The dual circulation development pattern requires China to boost domestic demand, expand its research and development capacity. There will be increased investment in hospitals and other health services. I mentioned several times of the dual circulation. As I explained, I didn't use post-COVID-19 because dual circulation is the national strategy of China to tackle COVID-19 and also problems resulted from rising protectionism and the sluggish global economy. This strategy is very important, will influence the social and economic development of China for the next decade, possibly for next 2 or 3 decades. This new term firstly raised by President Xi Jinping on May the 14th. It is a term to represent the new economic development pattern of China. This strategy has ruled out the possibility of China closing its door to other economies, although it stresses on the importance of domestic market demand and to shift from exporting to meeting the demands of domestic demand. As for the opportunities for health tourism from dual circulation, now here are the following are what I mentioned are suggested for the opportunities. First, for the outbound, medical tourism will remain sluggish for some time due to COVID-19, but will recover after well containment of COVID-19 worldwide. I have explained why. Only mainly due to insufficient supply of nice medical service, new medical technology, China will continue its open door policy and so on. As for the inbound opportunities, one is international TCM medical tourism service, mainly for TCM hospitals. Secondly, the international TCM recreation tourism, mainly will be supplied by TCM recreation destination. There are also opportunities for TCM therapy of the infected with COVID-19. This is my personal view. There are also other opportunities because this industry is a new and emerging one. So education and training of professionals are in great demand. There are also consultancy demand in service operations, branding, and also other factors. Opportunities also exist for facilitators, agency services to health tourists, especially bound to China health tour. Opportunities also exist in investment in health, recreation, leisure service entities, for instance, hospitals, recreation centers. I visited not long ago a new construction site in Qingdao. They are building a new hospital. It's a joint venture hospital between China and Republic of Korea. To summarize my perspectives, China lays importance on health tourism development, but facing obstacles. There are three major obstacles: integration, services, and professionals. Medical and wellness tourism are both hindered by COVID-19, while the outbound needs longer time to restart, but domestic wellness tourism is recovering. Chinese consumers value more of their health and become more confident in traditional Chinese medicine, which is favorable to TCM health tourism development. TCM recreation, leisure, and tourism will emerge as a popular lifestyle, along with efforts of a closer integration of medical service and tourism. China will adopt a new development pattern, dual circulation. This is the strategy to tackle the problem of COVID-19 and the uncertain world. It can also be considered a strategy of post-COVID-19. This strategy will greatly influence the social and economic development of China for the next decade or longer, including medical and wellness tourism. So, I have also suggested some opportunities on the dual circulation. As time is limited, I'm not going to repeat those opportunities. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Professor Hao Xiongtian. Well, the internet internet is not really stable over there, so he just sent us pre-recorded video. But thank you very much for your wonderful presentation, and I hope to see you in the panel discussion. So let us welcome our last presentation, Sharina Okamura, Professor, International University of Health and Welfare, will have a presentation on recent trend on medical tourism in Japan, a national government's new project, and the impact of COVID-19. So let's enjoy the presentation. Hello, Professor.
Hello.
Hello, thank
sorry.
you very
Okay.
much. Okay, so please start your presentation and say hello to our viewers still with us.
Good morning and good afternoon to everyone, and thank you very much for inviting me to this wonderful forum. I'm Serena Okamura from the International University of Health and Welfare in Japan. In 2019, last year, Japan launched a new government-led project to promote medical wellness tourism for foreign patients and tourists. This project has encountered some challenges because of COVID-19. However, it is slated to be an important project for promoting medical wellness tourism in Japan. So in this session, I'd like to share some information on this project with all of you. So before touching on this project, I'd like to briefly describe the current situation of medical wellness tourism in Japan. Please take a look at the left side of this slide. So this is a brief overview of the current situation of medical tourism for foreign patients in Japan. Since 2010, the Japanese government has implemented various measures for promoting medical tourism. However, many healthcare professionals in Japan opposed medical tourism on the grounds that it diverts precious healthcare resources away from the Japanese people. Because of this, very few medical institutions and or healthcare professionals in Japan are involved in medical tourism. Also, some local medical institutions and or healthcare professionals are trying to work on medical tourism, but it is not easy for them to get foreign patients because most foreign patients visiting Japan prefer to receive medical treatment in urban areas. Now, please take a look at the right side of this slide. This is a brief summary of the situation of wellness tourism in Japan. As it states here, wellness tourism has in fact been thriving in Japan for some time. Many Japanese people visit and relax at hot springs and so on in the countryside regions on weekends and holidays. As a result, in Japan, there are a variety of wellness tourism programs that take advantage of the characteristics of each region. However, these programs are only aimed at domestic tourism. Therefore, how successful such local wellness tourism programs may be, the people running them actually have little or no idea how to cater to the needs of foreign patients and tourists. Under these conditions, in 2019, this project was launched. So this is an overview of the project. As you can see in the slide, the first job is for the Ministry of Health, Labor and Welfare and the Japan Tourism Agency to select a company that will both manage and ensure the running of this project in its entirety. In 2019, a consortium of major consulting and travel firms was selected to perform this role. This consortium plays a central role in both the solicitation and selection of local governments, which will take part in this project. However, as you can see in the slide, the body which is responsible for selecting the actual local government is an expert committee. So I was the chairperson of this committee. In addition to myself, the committee consists of experts in the field of medicine and tourism. In this project, there are some conditions that the local government must fulfill in order to take part in this project. The first condition is that the local government, medical practitioners, and tourism businesses must all work together to build a corporate body that will play a central role in the development of their program. And another condition is that they must develop and evaluate user-friendly service tools such as information sharing applications. And in this project, the selected local governments shall receive subsidies towards development of their respective programs. Also, if they have any stumbling blocks or do not have enough information, either the consortium or the expert committee is available in a supporting or advisory capacity in any time. So this slide shows some of the local governments which were targeted for participation in the project last year. For example, the top right, we have Gunma Prefecture. This prefecture has a hot spring resort that is extremely famous throughout Japan. It is called Kusatsu Hot Springs. Japanese people have been visiting these hot springs for many hundreds of years, yet they remain relatively unknown to people from overseas. In response, Gunma Prefecture has developed a medical wellness tourism program that combines the Kusatsu Hot Spring with cancer screening tests. It is a similar story for other prefectures too. Tochigi Prefecture on the lower right offers climate walking and spa therapy, and Nagano Prefecture on the upper left offers proton therapy and an extended stay program that utilizes the bountiful nature of the prefecture to help alleviate some of the physical and mental burdens experienced by patients. While Wakayama Prefecture offers the opportunity to receive, Wakayama Prefecture offers a program that combines World Heritage sites and seaside resorts with the opportunity to receive medical checkups. So, as you can see, each of these programs was developed to take advantage of the unique characteristics of their respective regions. But as I have said previously, I have been involved in this project as a member of the expert committee. Throughout the course of this work, there have been two things that I keep being reminded of. I think the first issue might be unique to Japan, but in Japan, it seems to me that it is far from easy for local governments, medical institutions, and tourist businesses to come together and develop and implement medical wellness programs. And the second issue is that generally local governments, I think it's the same for medical institutions and tourist businesses, but they do not really know that true strengths and weaknesses of their respective regions. For example, one of the local hospitals which participated in this project was eager to incorporate its own medical checkup program into its region's medical wellness program. However, this hospital provides very good supervised treatment for domestic patients. There have even been a few medical papers published on their effectiveness. So when looked at objectively, it became clear that the appeal point of this hospital was this spur-based treatment. However, until it was pointed out by a third party, all of these have gone unnoticed. So a range of similar issues have emerged throughout the course of these projects. Therefore, I think that the scrutinizing of these issues and the consideration of measures to counter them are two most important things to emerge from our work on this project. Finally, I'd like to talk briefly about the impact that the COVID-19 has had on this project. Through this project, we have developed many new medical wellness programs for foreign patients and tourists. However, as you can see in the figure here, the number of people in Japan infected with COVID-19 is relatively low. However, with the inward movement of people from overseas being restricted, for the moment, it will remain difficult for us to receive foreign patients and foreign tourists from overseas. But we have been continuing with this project because we believe that through this project, we will be able to accumulate the knowledge necessary to become a more internationally competitive medical wellness tourism destinations. So with that, I'd like to end this simple introduction on this project. Thank you for your attention.
Wonderful. Thank you very much. That was great presentation. Thank you very much for sharing that information and insights, Professor Sharina Gamura. So with all the presentations done and the session 2, let's move on to the panel discussion with 3 speakers from session 2. And studio panel, Laura McLurky here. And also we have Don Byun, Executive Director, is joining us in the panel discussion. And kindly, this time around, also moderator of panel discussion, Professor Ki Nam-jun, will now lead this session. So now we're going to have panel discussion.
Thank you. I've known the speakers for many years. They are the world-renowned experts in their countries. It is so great to have this wonderful opportunity to listen to their insight. Let me first briefly review their presentations. Shireen made a presentation on Malaysian efforts to cope with COVID-19. She mentioned the several strategies for rebound. For example, she mentioned repositioning Malaysia healthcare, amplifying branding and marketing, preparing for border opening. Gaining trust from the market is the most important task given to us. Professor Hou made an overall review of health tourism market in China. China has encountered with 2 challenges like trade conflict with the US and COVID-19 pandemic. In response to this challenge, China adopted a dual circulation strategy. As a response to COVID-19, people started paying attention to wellness. I think there will be a great opportunity in this industry. Serena explained the recent project of developing regional medical wellness tourism resources in Japan. She mentioned the local governments do not have a professional expertise for developing international programs. To help the local government, the central government outsourced the task to the company. Now, let's ask our discussants to make their comment. Executive Director Byun, do you have any comment or questions?
Yes, thank you, Professor Jin. First of all, I was greatly inspired by the earlier presentations of the speakers from Malaysia, China, and Japan. It's a great honor to host the 2020 Seoul Medical Tourism International Forum with world-class experts in the field of medical and wellness amid the difficulties that the world is facing with the COVID-19 situation. I'm also grateful that I could be here to speak on behalf of Seoul Metropolitan Government and Seoul Tourism Organization. Despite the pandemic crisis, the Republic of Korea has proven the excellence of the medical and quarantine response system, now known as K-Quarantine. In addition, Seoul is a city leading the global medical tourism market with 320,000 overseas medical tourists visiting in 2019. I believe that in the new normal era after COVID-19, the medical and wellness tourism market will emerge as a new trend. Seoul is also striving to foster medical wellness tourism that consumes comprehensive health services centered on treatment. As part of that, we selected 70 wellness tourism resources this year. We researched and discovered excellent wellness tourist destinations and facilities in Seoul, with categorizing them into 5 themes: healing meditation, beauty spa, well-being food, fitness yoga, and nature forest treat. It features a selection of urban-type wellness resources that can be enjoyed in large cities like Seoul. 10 recommended courses for each theme are going to be ready to be introduced soon. The Seoul Metropolitan Government and the Seoul Tourism Organization will continue to discover urban wellness resources to promote Seoul as a medical and wellness resources, wellness destinations. Thank you very much, Mr. Chen.
Thank you. Now, Laura, do you have any further questions to the speakers?
Yes, sure. I want to say thank you so much to all the speakers for your fantastic presentations. And I would just like to ask Shireen, what is the strategy that we're going to see you employ? Here we go. What is your strategy to assure the safety inside hospitals in addition to COVID-19 testing? And also, before you answer, I want to say I'm just healthier having listened to your presentation. My serotonin levels are spiked. It was fantastic. But yeah, what else, apart from COVID-19 testing, what are the strategies that you're employing in Malaysia?
Hi, Laura, and hi, everyone. Thank you for that question. And I certainly enjoyed all our speakers' presentation. And when you talk about, our strategies, I shared, if you can recall the three areas that we talk about. We have world-class quality services at our hospitals, and we have end-to-end services that we provide to our patients. But for COVID, our strategies have changed in a sense that it's not just the services. You need to convince people, you need to tell them that they can trust Malaysia. So I think that's currently our core strategy in moving forward post-COVID in repositioning Malaysia. That trust, I think, has to be really solid for us to welcome back those 1.3 million patients that we had in 2019. So when you look at the three things, we are talking about the PR and branding, amplify that PR and branding and remind them of us so that they remember, Malaysia on their top of mind when the borders open. That's number one. Number two is about digitalization. Before this, healthcare is the least disrupted. People will still want to see their doctors eye to eye, face to face. So now everyone is forced to look into telehealth, telemedicine, even look in e-pharmacy, etc. So that's something that we are enabling for Malaysia at the moment for both domestic patients as well as foreign patients. So especially for foreign patients, we want to make sure they remain connected to all of us in Malaysia that are really keen in providing that service to them. And the third one is about building our content in terms of as a thought leader. Not only building trust is not just about the quality of service. It's not just about the end-to-end service. It's also about knowing that Malaysia is in the forefront in the content and also in the thought leadership of medical and medical travel and medical devices. And currently, Malaysia is the biggest, for example, rubber gloves producer. That's important now in the times of COVID. We need all these PPEs, etc. So being the top producers in those are also building that trust for Malaysia. So we are putting all these success stories, all the things that Malaysia is leading to be branding Malaysia and reminding people that Malaysia is has a thought leadership in healthcare. So that's our main strategy for post-COVID. When you talk about hospitals, what are the strategies that we have in the hospital? Our hospital has their own internal SOP to welcome patients, for local patients as well as our international patients. For our local, we have a task force in the hospital that actually works with our Ministry of Health, with our district health officers, so they have to follow all the guidelines that being issued by the ministry, etc. And in Malaysia, all positive patients, COVID patients, have to be admitted in hospitals for treatment, regardless whether they show any symptoms or not. Every single one of our COVID patients have to be admitted to our hospitals for treatment, or at least for quarantine. So that shows, how strict our hospitals, our healthcare system is in terms of dealing with COVID and curbing and COVID, and also keeping Malaysians and also all our people in Malaysia safe. So similarly, when people come as medical tourists currently now, they have to follow these strict protocols, the quarantine, and then inside that, when they are under quarantine getting treatment, all our staff will be in PPEs, etc. They will have to be vetted before they came into the country even, and then we have a restricted number of companions. For example, adult patient can only have one companion, and the companion has to stay in the hospital with the patient. They can't stay in a hotel because they have to be quarantined with the patient in the same room, in the same hospital, at the quarantine, the isolated wards. So there are all these strict protocols are being put into place for all the hospitals that are handling medical travelers, and also for the other hospitals as well. So, you can get this SOP.
Okay, thank you, Shireen. We have a participant on the screen who wants to ask a question. Could you identify yourself and ask a question?
Hello? Please, can you hear me? Hello, my name is Precious. I'm from Ghana. Thank you so much for the opportunity. Thank you for the great presentations. I have a question for Serena from Japan. Could you tell us about medical tourism trends in Japan? For example, how many medical tourists visited Japan last year? What are the major target countries from Japan's perspective? Should I take it again? I was asking if you could
I'm
tell
sorry,
us.
I can't hear your voice well, so.
Okay. I'll take it slowly.
Please, Jean, give me her question to me.
Okay.
Yeah, Serena?
I was
yes.
Serena,
Yes.
she asked you about the current trend of medical tourism in Japan, especially last
Yes.
year. So if you have any statistical figures of how many foreign patients visited Japan last year, could you tell us about that?
Honestly, to say in Japan, we don't have any system to count the number of medical tourists like your country. So we don't know exactly how many medical tourists were coming in Japan. But I think it's the number is between a few thousand and 20,000.
I see.
I know it's,
Okay.
yeah.
Thank you. Next question is for Executive Director Dong Byun. The medical tourism industry in South Korea has been hit hard by COVID-19. I want to know if Seoul Tourism Organization has any long-term strategy.
Sure. Thank you, Mr. Jin, Professor Jin again. Yes, the Seoul Metropolitan Government and STO have been considering medical tourism as a high value adding business that will lead the future tourism growth of Seoul. In the first half of this year, we established a 5-year plan for revitalizing Seoul medical tourism and attracting overseas patients. Together with the Chairman Ki-nam Chin of the Medical Tourism Promotion Council of Seoul Metropolitan Government here, a vision of smart, all-care, medical and wellness tourism city Seoul was derived. There are 4 main strategies. Firstly, it is to establish a reliable medical tourism system. Second is to strengthen the integrated medical tourism industry ecosystem. To improve the quality of medical tourism services is the third. And the fourth is to build a medical wellness tourism brand and consolidate the marketing strategies. Furthermore, we will use the smart technologies to provide medical services and information to offer prompt, accurate, and convenient services, and proactively improve the management of the medical tourists and medical workers, pre- and post-treatment processes, and medical care to tourism in the post-COVID-19 era. We will continue to dedicate to ourselves to the Seoul Medical Tourism Promotion Project of Seoul City and STO. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Now I'd like to ask the last question to Professor Ho. Thank you for joining us. My question is, as you mentioned, because of this COVID-19 pandemic, people started paying attention to wellness in China. So what would be the popular or representative wellness services in China? I know, of course, the Chinese traditional medicine is a very strong product. Could you tell us a little bit about it?
Yes, thank you, Professor Qin. And, in China, actually, we understand what are our advantages. We are, I think we are not going to compete in the world market in Western medicine service, but we will focus on TCM, wellness or recreation tourism. Currently, there are several sectors which are very popular. One is TCM, recreation tourism. One is forest therapy. One is hot spring therapy. These 3 areas are actually very popular. To our surprise, we have done some survey. Usually we think that, for instance, for hot spring therapy, usually is popular among middle-aged people, especially men. But new research found that even young people, 20 to 30 years old, they like this kind of lifestyle. And also, as for TCM, tourism, one is actually in hospital, TCM hospitals. In our name is TCM medical tourism. We mainly, treat diseases from outside of China. One of the hospitals in southern part of China every year there are thousands of patients who are from Russia, from Mongolia, and also some other European countries. They come here for TCM treatment. But to me, I think that still there needs a longer time to develop into a bigger industry. But for TCM recreation tourism in Chinese, we have another actually medical tourism and health tourism in China. We have different names. For recreation tourism with TCM, actually, usually it's integrated of TCM with some other, other services or other resources. For instance, forest, for instance, hot springs, and even sand, even water. So in this area, actually, I also noticed just now that I think that I'm impressed with one of the panelists who mentioned that so also developed wellness tourism. We also have TCM destinations. As a matter of fact, my research team, we have published annual reports for consecutive 2 years, and we mainly doing surveys among consumers, try to understand their likings and their dislikes and their consumption habits, and regarding TCM recreation tourism.
Thank you, Professor Hao. Yeah, I think I guess that will be all for today. I deeply appreciate the speakers. Thank you, Shireen, Serena, and Ho for joining us.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Prof. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Yes.
Well, thank you. Thank you very much for all the enthusiastic discussions and great information. So, ladies and gentlemen, this concludes this session on preparation for post-COVID-19 medical wellness tourism market. Once again, thank you very much, our wonderful moderator, Professor Ki Nam-jin, and Laura McLaughlin and Don Byun for your insightful talks. And also, I'd like to thank our online speakers, Shireen Asli and Hui Chong-tian and Sharina Okamura, and your participation through the internet. So, ladies and gentlemen, this is the end of 2020's our Medical Tourism International Forum. Unfortunately, we were not able to have all the guests here in the studio. However, I think it was a great opportunity to have experts from all around the world online. Also, all participants were with us through Zoom and YouTube on real time until this time around. Even though it's not a face-to-face, we could have a great forum with our online participants. So once again, thank you. So before we say goodbye to you all, let me briefly talk about our ongoing program, 2020 Seoul International Travel Mart for Medical Tourism, which will be with us 19th November. Still, we have 10 more days. So this event is welcoming its second year, and it's medical tourism B2B program, and we invited 140 international buyers from 30 overseas countries and 160 domestic medical tourism sellers, and provide 24 hours online business meeting. So it's very huge and very interesting and very good website. So please visit our official website and have a good information. So with that, I would like to say goodbye to you all. So this is the end of our program, and next year, hopefully, I would like to meet you all in person in Seoul. Once again, thank you very much.